Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Black to the future. All right, so now we're starting the show. So we called it Noah's Astrology. Welcome to Synctank. We got Noah with us. How's it going, Noah? Let's get a little
very good.
Here.
I need to take a poll though of everyone here, okay? Because we need to understand if I'm from an alternate timeline or not. Because the end of last week, Andreas was like, "We need to get Noah back on the show," and I don't remember being on the show before. So does anyone else remember me being on the show? Like,
no,
I had a great
this version of you.
I had a great time though.
Yeah. Is it maybe because you recently did a show with Alex? Is that what it is?
I get. Oh yeah, I am on the show every week because whenever you guys give a shout out to Alex, he's still got my episode up. So.
Dude. And let's throw in a little special guest here, our buddy William John. How's it going?
Yo! Can you hear me?
Very well, man.
I'm not talking too loud.
No, you never talk too loud. That's not even what you're like as a person. But I love that your T-shirt's Proviso Teachers Union. That's pretty based. What's the bottom line there? Say hard for the future. What was it?
Saving souls is what we're doing.
My God, sir. All right. Well, so yeah, technically Noah's not been on Synctank, but the way I look at it is it's just in the future, and we're doing that now. So it all worked out.
Okay, but what did Biff do to my mom?
That's great. Do you feel like, I mean, is it possible that there's like different Biffs and there's different Marty McFlys? Like that's, I think, kind of the point of last week we were talking about, is this idea that the original Back to the Future does exist and we're just not allowed to see it. But like clearly they filmed an entire Back to the Future that we're just not allowed to know about. And we've somehow landed in a different timeline. But it seems like that's the thing where like his hand is disappearing. That whole scene where he's looking at his hand disappearing because of the fact that it's not his hand that punches Biff. It's the other Marty McFly who punches Biff. So it's never been his hand. You know, that's why he's looking at his hand disappear.
Would Biff make a good president? Because I feel like there's an alternate reality where he's the one that's president.
Aren't we in that alternate
reality? I mean, like the Biff.
I mean, I feel like Biff is just Trump. Like, isn't that pretty clear? Didn't they make that pretty clear that Biff was Trump?
That's the writer said it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But in that universe, then Trump would be an actor, right? Inside of Hollywood movies, and Biff would be president.
Oh, really? Because like
aren't they both actors? Like,
yeah, because like that never happened before. Obviously, there's no like scene in Macaulay Culkin's Home Alone 2 in the Trump Tower. That's not real, right? I mean,
wait, Trump's the president, the actor.
The actor?
I know you're the actor.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Oh, you say you're from the future? Oh yeah. Who's president? Donald Trump. The actor? Yeah, no, totally.
Well, we wanted to go into astrology because Noah's like running deep in the paint with astrology. I think I would compare. I want to compare you for people because the way I know you is you do with stars and constellations what Alex Fulton cryptocubrology does with regular numbers, and he's really really good at it. I think we all know like cryptocubrology is really good at that. I say you're at least as good at that as he is at that cryptocubrology. At astrology, you're probably one of the best astrologers I've ever met. And you know, maybe you're just like a crazy autistic guy or something.
Yeah, I'm getting off. I can't handle this. I'm
and he's handsome. All right, look at that. Look at there's something about the facial hair. I'm inspired by my friends.
You can get off after the show. You don't have to get off during.
You can get off during the show, but they might demonetize.
You're getting demonetized today. That's it.
That's the problem.
Getting off.
But, okay. But yeah, I want you to couple steps to this. So I want you to introduce yourself, and then we'll talk a bit about either astrology or Back to the Future, whatever order, you know, because I know you also wanted to talk about Back to the Future. So feel free to go on that rant. But like, who are you, Noah? Who are you? What are you? Tell us about yourself.
I came from like some like rural hicks who became hippies, who became like born again Christians, and so I don't know. I've got this weird mix, but really, what happened was when they became born again Christians, they didn't like push off their hippie friends, you know. So I had like a prominent astrologer as one of a close family friend. And he was kind of like slightly barred from, you know, going full blast, but he'd give me little hints here and then, you know, he'd give me little sparks of wisdom about my chart. And he wound up, when I was going through a real rough patch, when I was a kid, real young, he knew what was happening. He could see the chart, right? And he used to come up and hang out with us at Christmas. That was his like pagan thing to do, was go hang out with the Christians at Christmas. And he got out all my mom's pots and pans and was like, here's a set of drumsticks. You can do this. He saw it in my chart. And so he kind of gave me this ability to play drums, which turned into this obsession. That was the first part of my life, was just being a musician and composing insane music nobody wants to hear. And then there's like a whole other phase. I became a parent and had to get a real job and all this stuff. But then later on, those seeds of astrology sort of sparked. And so then he inspired me in the second half of my life in this whole other way. So I started studying astrology as a main interest.
I have to ask, this might come out of left field. Have you ever heard of the 12 tribes, or familiar with the 12 tribes?
Like in the Old Testament?
No, well, sorry, no, it's like a modern day group. Some people get treated like a cult, but it sounds very much like what you're describing, except I've heard it almost the inverse, where it was a bunch of hippies that turned to like fundamentalist Christianity, but
my God, this is
like the revelation stuff going on with it. This is the one we've brought this up with the Yellow Deli before.
Oh, okay. 12
background. It was like hippies that eventually got so sick of the hippie movement, but they didn't shake the same vibes. They just became like revelatory Christians out of it.
That's the
psychedelic Christians are the best.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard of them before, but I mean, that was a big trend in the 70s, right? Of hippies turning into Christians. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
There's that movie Frasier.
What is it?
The Frasier guy. What's his name again? The actor from Frasier.
Kelsey Grammer?
Kelsey Grammer. Thank you. He was in some new movie that came out like last year that's about like Christianity or Jesus or something like that.
He's like the stuck-up dad from Footloose, and like this new hippie preacher comes into town and he steals all the parishioners from the
Jesus
old
Revolution
church.
Right. Yeah,
nice.
Jesus Revolution. You guys haven't seen that yet? It's it's literally like it's what we're talking about. You know, he's like all these people, they're trying to convert people to Christianity, and it's the hippies are happening, and a lot of people aren't going to church. And then he meets some hippie Christian. He's like, well, you know what? We can fill those pews. But then they like bring in like the hippie dippy Christians who do drugs and are barefoot. And they're, you know, really good at getting people to baptize and hang out and like play music together. And it's like the old dudes don't get it. And they're like, well, do you think when Jesus comes back, he's going to be coming back in a 3-piece suit? Probably not. You know, he had long hair and a beard. Jesus was clearly a hippie. I think that's the Kelsey Grammer Jesus Revolution movie. It's pretty good.
That sounds cool. You saw it?
Yeah, I saw part of it. I didn't finish it.
It's one of the most mainstream Christian movies I think I've ever seen in my life. Because I mean,
Yeah.
it like sneaks it in, but I mean, if you're anti-Christian or if you're agnostic or I guess like aggressively atheist, you'll totally be like, this is a freaking Bible movie. This isn't even like a normal movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean,
I
it's
liked
not
it. I
bad.
really liked
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I wanted to also bring up John Quigley just because you're talking about astrology, and it's like Nancy Reagan's personal astrologer, John Quigley, because it's interesting like how much of the presidency during Reagan was decided by Joan and her interest in, she's like, well, the Pluto return is happening. There's like eclipse in Pluto, and that would be a perfect time to deal with the nuclear treaty. And wouldn't you know it, that was the week of Chernobyl. So I like to say like Joan Quigley is responsible for Chernobyl. I like to say that. I don't know if you want to say that, but I mean, she's an interesting lady. So I don't know. What do you think about people use like, because they say millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do, but clearly like this is, I imagine Trump has his own astrologer. I don't know who she would be, but you have to imagine that he's probably pretty into astrology too.
Did you just misgender Trump's astrologer? That's pretty offensive.
I don't know who they are. That's true. Do you know? Is there a guy?
He's probably got multiple astrologers. That's hence the they.
Listen, right? I can't talk about my clients, okay?
Wouldn't it be great if Trump's astrologer was trans?
Sure.
Or Kanye.
Kanye
is the astrologer,
yeah. Consult the bones. Bones tell me nothing.
Yeah, they're probably into hair specs. They're probably like cutting up dogs and looking at the entrails.
There was
go in the direction the bird is flying.
That was a thing.
I do that.
When
Trump, back to the village.
When Trump was first being elected, there were all these witches doing these anti-Trump spells and things like that. And there was a huge conspiracy because there was a roundup of all sorts of dogs by the SPCA, and they were all taken in the middle of the night. And all these dudes in the Midwest were like, hey, people showed up at my house and just stole my dog and said I wasn't treating my dog right. But there was no evidence that they were treating their dogs poorly. And then they went to get their dogs back, and they'd all been put to sleep, allegedly, like the same day. And it was like 10,000 dogs. And so I remember in the kitchen sink or Secret Sun, this huge, like, insane, hard to handle conspiracy that they were doing dog sacrifices against Trump. I was like, this is like where I started to draw the line, because before then I was like, yeah, there's a lot of crazy, interesting people that we know who are into synchronicity. They're very political. Some of them are leftist, some of them are right winger, but they're all, at least occultic and esoteric. And hopefully they see past the false dichotomy. But then it felt like they didn't anymore. There was a very clear obsession with the false dichotomy, feeling like one side actually was different than the other. And that, that was the beginning of by any means necessary. Like today we've got people blowing up Teslas and crazy stuff's happening. But I feel like I noticed it started with the dog sacrifices, because at the point you're willing to kill, old Yeller for, to stop Trump. That's when
well, you can rationalize just about anything, is what I'm seeing through the tolerance paradox. So people be like, look up the tolerance paradox, which to me is kind of like a tolerance fallacy if you take it to its extreme, right? So you're just like, we do not tolerate the people who don't tolerate. And it is the epitome of an R.D. Laing knot. R.D. Laing had that book Knots, where he shows all these different, they're mathematical, they're based on game theory. We've talked about it before, but he looked at what the military was using for game theory and applying it to family units, and recognizing the knots people will twist themselves into that on its own terms is actually unreconcilable. You need some outside agency to like shift it. It's inertia. So I see that with the tolerance paradox, where it's just like this very inertia driven thing where once you say if you just won't tolerate the people who don't tolerate, then it's like, well, to what end then? It's like for the good of the planet kind of thing,
It just sounds like an absolute, which is really easy to take to like an illogical conclusion, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The Sith only deals in absolutes, that's the thing. That's why liberty dies with standing applause.
The dog sacrifices weren't as powerful as the Keck magic, so F-A-1.
That seemed like to be the truth. Yeah, I don't know. And so I've been looking at some of the Liberation Day astrology stuff, and it seems like most of these holidays that are being set up have pretty interesting astrology. Liberation Day is coming the onset of April, which feels a rare and powerful yod, which is the active between Uranus, the great liberator, who continues to transit financial Taurus, right? We were literally talking about Uranus, Neptune, and Taurus the other day. And Saturn into Pisces.
Well, that's that. Okay, so the Uranus right there, that's on Trump's midheaven, which is his peak of status. And when Mars met Uranus on his midheaven, that's the day he got shot in the ear.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, like it portended violence. And so I'm inclined to think he was blading and he was going back to his WWF roots. But the chart actually shows violence against him. Like, I don't know. I'm conflicted about that. But you can see here, Mars.
If you know what's to expect, then you can make sure that the right things happen. You know, I feel like
that's right. But also, then there's a way to work sympathetic magic where you see what the chart is saying, and then you kind of act it out, right? Which is the whole king kill ritual of putting a fool on the throne when there's an eclipse. The whole thing, which we just went through. We just went through Biden on the throne when there was an eclipse that passed across the entire.
He's the sickly king, wasn't he? Kind of like really fit the bill for that. Like the health of the king is connected to the health of the empire. You know, like
Indeed. In fact, sort of the original astrology was the king's natal chart would be the chart for the entire country. Whoever was king, that would be the chart they'd use. And at the same time, I mean, that eclipse went through Canada as well, and Trudeau's gone now too. You know, so there was it was almost like a double king kill. And I mean, Charles might be on his way out, although the eclipse wasn't as visible over there. But
if he was doing a good job, from my understanding of the Canadian system, he could have stayed in indefinitely. He could have been like Netanyahu and just go on forever. Well, you know, there's nothing to stop him. You know.
He pulled the trigger on the shutting down people's bank accounts way too soon. That was so silly. Like,
sure,
I think everyone in. Okay,
they feel like they already weren't ever going to have those people support who had a problem with that in the first place. Like, I mean, I agree with you. Like, that was a terrible look, to say the least, shutting down protesters' bank accounts for those truckers. But at the same time, were those people that are reacting that, were they ever going to be on Trudeau's side?
No. But what I mean is, I think the people in charge were like, "Wow, that was too soon." Like you,
right. Hold on, man. You're supposed to do that 3 years from now, at least. You know, that's a long-term plan.
That hot tub in downtown Ottawa, we weren't supposed to cut bank accounts over that.
This was like one of the first failed attempts on 9/11 at the trade towers.
Oh yeah,
right. Weren't there like at least like 2 different events leading up to the big one?
Right. Well, this is actually there's a whole big. It actually has some substance behind it, but there's the conspiracy theory that what happened with COVID-19, that wasn't supposed to happen just then. That was that because Trump was a wild card of him becoming president. They were supposed to pull that like further down the line. But the theory is, and there's an argument for it, and you see it with the what do they call that, the testing thing that they did beforehand. I should remember this. Where they did that kind of played out that scenario. What is that called?
Like a simulation?
Yeah, the simulation thing that they did for COVID. God, I can't think right now. Event 201. Yeah. So like you can see indications that this was something that they were like, okay, well, this is our plan. This is our ultimate plan. We're going to do this at some point. But it's like they just like. We're like, we got to do it now. Like while Trump's in office, like this is just too much. Like, you know, that this was like a long-term thing, and that kind of screwed them. Like the COVID-19, like the way that all went down, that was something that was pushed forward.
Which we all believe and agree with. Just to be clear, for any censors listening, we are in full support of what happened.
Oh, I'm saying a conspiracy theory, which automatically means that it's bogus. I hope everyone understood that, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I heard another bogus conspiracy theory that someone else said that I definitely don't support, which is that maybe Trump was in power because all the militias would stand down when they shut down the country and did this massive, like, alleged robbery of everyone, of all these independent businesses. That, you know, it would have been much darker if it had been done under a Democrat government.
Yeah, and definitely insurance policies to roll out for so many people. So it seemed like, all of these products that weren't going to get purchased, all of a sudden you had an insurance claim for all of them. So it was definitely that Jubilee reset thing, which is what 1993 and 2001 were supposed to be part of that Jubilee, like the debt Gasara Nasara, right, idea. And so I don't know. I mean, when we're supposed to expect a Jubilee, or what do you think about that in terms of cycles of shedding the karma and shedding the debts and things? It seems like it was a debt shedding for a lot of these corporations, and the transition of all these companies too, because that was the big Q conspiracy, was that all of these companies were going to have new CEOs and the other ones were going to step down. Well, in a weird way, that's exactly what happened. A lot of companies did change hands, get Instagram to Facebook and everything else. Like, we watched all of these CEOs be replaced for the most part, except for the ones like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. But even Mark Zuckerberg, like the transition of what Facebook was into what Oculus is becoming, and what's going on with the video game industries, these like multi-trillion-dollar companies that are all under new wings, under new hands. I mean, the complete control by what at the time we were thinking was USAID, right? USAIDs had a big play with most of these corporations. With Disney Plus, we're looking at accounts that they purchased to keep Disney Plus afloat, CNN Plus, all these like plus apps that they were trying to push. None of them seem to really work. I mean, there's no transition that's gentle enough from the old world to the new world right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all dinosaur brains, right? What do we know about dinosaur brains?
They're instinctual, bird brains.
Small. Yeah. They're very, very tiny, right?
The size of a walnut.
Oh, so you have all these dinosaurs that passed away in the 80s and 90s that you never thought were going to die. And then you have this new legion of dinosaur type corporate entities arising, but they have these small pea-brained leaders, right? These individuals who can't possibly encompass the large language model that's necessary to run a global corporation. So it's almost like these baby dinosaurs that are running across the landscape on the bones of these old ones. And everyone's just sort of disappointed at how transparent it is. I mean, Zuckerberg, Bezos, I mean, even Elon to a certain extent, he's not necessarily your typical intellectual. I mean, he's successful and he's proficient, but is he really an intellectual? I mean,
there's like a cover story. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like, if you had a big corporation, you'd need to have a figurehead. Elon Musk would be a perfect figurehead. And he's not any more relatable than Al Gore. Like, I remember him, especially we talked about this video game thing where he was playing a game that he purchased someone else to beat for him. And so he had all of his high scores. So he'd go in there, pay to win, basically. Mm-hmm. And acting like he wants to act like he's the greatest gamer, or at least a competent gamer. But no, like the greatest gamer. And that's like to say I'm a man of the people. It's very similar to when Al Gore said, I'm a hunter and I shoot deer. Right. And it's like, no,
or Zuckerberg recently on Rogan, where he was saying, bow hunting, that's what I like. And he's like, oh, what kind of bow do you have? He's like, I don't know. He's like, oh, who trained you? He's like, I don't know. I don't know. He just kind of froze up. And so I don't know. But the whole point was that he was trying to be relatable to the public, which is even like when he put out the videos of him barbecuing and stuff, and he keeps talking about the meats. It's like, I got these meats. It was like, and people made the joke. They're like, he was like data from Star Trek or whatever. It's like, look, he's trying to convince us that he's human, but we can also like, what would a robot or an alien say or do to try and convince me? Like, I made him here barbecuing meat over here.
I'm masticating.
Yeah. I was kidding.
Well, there was I was trying to pull up the astrology thing I saw from the Wall Street Journal, I think this is. And so Wall Street Journal said this 8 months ago, like, watch Uranus and Taurus like a hawk, the symbols of revolution, radical change, freedom, upheaval, shock, and new technologies like cryptocurrencies in the sign of the bull market until 2025. This is again
the
from last
sign
year.
Of the bull market. So they're saying that Taurus and the bull market are connected. That's how they're making that connection. Or?
I mean, yeah, Wall Street Journal. I mean, so the last thing you'd ever expect to happen happens with Uranus and Taurus. He's said,
is this where the Wall Street Journal is at now? I'm sorry, I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's like, it's a little concerning that that's like, I mean, this would be unheard of in the past from the Wall Street Journal, right?
We're in a weird phase, man. Like Uranus in Taurus really had to do with cryptocurrency, because Uranus is like the shocking new energy coming in, this eccentricity, and Uranus in Taurus, which I think started in around 2018, was really this like where cryptocurrency took off and became potentially a viable investment.
So that would be that the stability of Taurus would be applying itself to
the shock value.
No, not necessarily, because first off, Uranus isn't that comfortable in any place that's stable, but Uranus winds up going into more because it's an Earth sign and it's a stable Earth sign. It's more like, where do I put my resources? You know, where what's the safe thing to do? And the safe thing to do becomes way more eccentric and bizarre. But I mean,
it's kind of a paradox, though, isn't it? Because Bitcoin is so, we were talking about something digital, so we're talking about something etheric, and then we're talking about something as dense physical matter, and then saying this and that. Yeah, that's a trip. Okay.
That's right. Except Uranus in Gemini is going to be way more crazy, which is going to begin this summer, right? We're going to get Uranus moving into Gemini. So all the outer planets are all changing sign this year. Pluto is securely in Aquarius now. It's not retrograding back into Capricorn, and Neptune is now in Aries as of a week ago, and Uranus is moving into Gemini. And so all the outer planets, and also Saturn's about to move into Aries as well. So all the outer planets are moving together into the first degrees of masculine signs. It's all either air or fire signs.
Hey, what's the new Tron called that's coming out?
Ares.
Thank you. Okay, interesting.
God of War. Yeah.
Huh. Oh, scary.
As everything's moving into, as Saturn and Neptune are moving together into Aries. Yeah. Pretty wild. And they're even color coding them properly. He's red, which red is the color of Aries.
So what about Gemini? So is that better for Uranus because it's less stable or it's more dynamic?
It's better for Uranus, but it's he's going through a Uranus transit right now. Look at that. Okay, so the history of Uranus do you guys know about this for the United States of America?
I don't know.
Is this news? Okay.
Is this in Manly P. Hall's The Secret Destiny of America? Because he goes into the astrology of America in that book. I can't remember all the details.
Uranus is in Gemini in the natal chart for the United States of America.
Interesting.
And so when it was founded, it was a war, right? It was the War of Independence. And then you go 86 years in the future, and Uranus returns to Gemini, and you have the Civil War. And then you go 86 years into the future when Uranus returns to Gemini, and you have World War II, which is where the United States really solidified itself as controlling the seas, right? They became the ruler of, they became the massive empire they are dying today as.
So what's the deal with Gemini? So is it like anti-Libra? Like what is the deal in terms? It's like it's heterodox, it's more dynamic. I feel like I like it more than Libra. I mean,
well, Gemini is the most yang sign in the zodiac because it's right moving up to the summer solstice. So the sun is at its maximum peak in the sky. It gets up to 27 degrees, 23 minutes up in the sky at the summer solstice. So Gemini is all about independent energy. It's about doing your own thing and not really worrying about who else cares. Now, Gemini is the descendant of the U.S. Sibley chart. So the U.S. approaches the rest of the world as, hey, aren't I the best? Like, what do I care what you're thinking? We're going to make your country better. We're going to take you over, whatever. You're good. So every time Uranus gets there, it shakes everything up, and there's another huge war that alters how the United States relates to the rest of the world.
Usually in a pretty good way.
Hey Noah, are you hip to the Saudi star issue?
The Saudi star issue.
Yeah, have you ever heard about that? So like with the tarot arcana and the way that they correspond to the zodiac in part, there's obviously 22 arcana, but the way that that's all laid out, there's Crowley is known to have taken two cards associations and switched them, which is Sadi and Hay. And so Hay would normally in a tarot deck would correspond to the emperor, which is interesting because it's a feminine letter. It just even in the language itself, you have masculine and feminine letters, right? But he switches that with the star, and there's an argument that's like that he's not really doing anything himself necessarily. It's more like just showing the defect as it exists in this interim of the fall, right? So, but the reason why I'm bringing it up is because you're speaking to Aries, like Aries corresponds to the emperor traditionally, right, in terms of the correspondence of the Hebrew letters to the 22 arcana, whereas, you know, like so to move the emperor to the placement of the star in the regular arrangement as like a vesica, you know, when you do like Thomas Campbell's like hero's journey, you make it so that in doing so, by putting the star in the placement of the emperor, by making her as Hay and making him as Sadi, saying Sadi is not the star, you're actually taking so, you know, Sadi would normal is from its Phoenician and Chaldean roots is a fishhook, as a pictograph, and so by doing that switch and giving that to the emperor, you're basically saying that the Trump emperor. Oh, that's actually a really interesting one from the cover of that magazine that you were just showing. Is it The Economist? That's actually super applicable to what I'm talking about. The last image, yeah, this one. So see how he's, so Trump in this is in judgment, right? But like that isn't the judgment card, that's the emperor card. So they took the symbolism of the emperor, and notice how that one's tilted. And so if you back up and you look at the arrangement of these cards, there's something really weird happening, because the star is the only other one that's tilted here.
What the
so
fuck?
The emperor, yeah, totally. And so, for real. So like I'm like, I've tripped out on this layout. Yeah. So but anyway, that you're basically putting the emperor next to the tower in that arrangement by that switch. The tower is Mars. Yeah. So you're putting Aries, which is ruled by Mars, next to it. Mars as the tower, as Pe, the Hebrew letter correspondent, Pe is a mouth. So you literally have a fish hook next to the mouth as the Trump emperor next to the Trump tower. So like it's like they get connected, and so there's almost like a like archetypal gravity that's being communicated of like this is just where it lands, because this is like the ephemeral name, right? But you're rearranging it as the klipo. It's hard to explain this; it gets kind of complicated, but just trying to, you know, with as much brevity as possible, the klipo mirrored tetragrammaton, and then tetragrammaton is represented as the tree itself extending, which includes these 22 pathways, right? So ultimately, these 22 letters, even though you'd say Yud Hey Vav Hey is tetragrammaton, the 4-letter name, each section of the tree, like from Keter to Bina, that's Yud, and then Bina itself, that's Hey, is female, right? The father and the mother, Abba and Ima. But then and then Tiferet would be Vav in the center of the tree, and then Malkut at the bottom would be the final Hey. So you look at the way that all of those pathways correspond, that are part of that name, to arrange them in this way. It's showing that we're relating to that name through this sheath, which is the klipot, the shells, the husks around holiness that are arranging themselves, and we're relating to that as though that is that's the reality, when really it's just this shell between us and that's like mimicking and contorting itself to like give us the appearance that it's that thing. So really, like that is, as far as I can tell, like the false god, right? So like when you and to say like it's in the 10 Commandments, people think misread it because it's like, have no gods before me. There's the argument that what me is in this case is actually the like language that exists in nature itself. That's not our replication of it or a representation of it. So it's like, don't take the representation to be the thing in itself, because that's, you know, fallacious, or more than that. You know, it's a huge it's a huge problem, right? It's a defect. So Crowley was really communicating what that defect is, as far as I can tell. So I think some people, when they see it, they think he was like doing magic to make it this, when really he was just giving language to this defect. So like, I'm sorry to go on this whole tangent here, but it's just, it feels very relatable, because here we're looking at Aries. You're telling me what we have coming to us with how Aries, like, were you just talking about conjunctions, trines, sextiles, and squaring, right? And like everything that's about to follow involving Aries and what we're in for, because when they fall into Aries, now we have to deal with every configuration that we experience in relationship to that. So anyway, yeah.
It does also seem interesting that the new, just to say quickly, that the new Mobius, Jared Leto, Aries, you know, Tron Aries movie, because I always relate this to the Kabbalah and Gnosticism so hard with Yaldabaoth, Maze, and the users, the creators, gods. The creators are called the users by the programs, right? And so this program is a very Promethean way of looking at something that's been created rather than something that is inert or in infinite beyond time and out of nature, right? And so this God of War content is interesting because it's coming after the last Tron Legacy, where you have this ISIS kind of character. The ISOs are these image files that are generative, and then from there, this is like artificial intelligence finally merging. And we've seen in the last few movies, right, from Gnosticism and corporatism connected to the occult into the open sourcing of Linux, right? They're saying someone accidentally or someone sabotaged the corporation by releasing this truth to the people, right? The operating system is this sort of truth, this Gnostic truth that's just been given for free to everyone, and they're able to do what they will with it. Very much like the Matrix, kind of people are allowed to accept it or deny it. And they ended with the idea that Clue, which is the sort of Lucifer made in the image of the user, Clue was going out into the real world, but it's been stopped, right? And so the ISOs, they've already gone off into the real world. There's some sort of a portal or doorway between their world and our world, and this is the horseman. I would say almost the light cycle is the horseman of the apocalypse, the revelator that's coming to deal with Tron the Baptist, right?
Are you allowed to deny the Matrix though? Because I thought that if the agents noticed you noticing, then the first thing they do is they take you out and they reboot you essentially, no?
So the thing is slightly different with the Matrix and Tron is that there's it's like inverted. So Tron is more about the what do we call it, the city, what's the city called in
Zion.
It's about Zion. Yeah, Tron is about Zion because they're already outside of the Matrix for the most part. They go into the Matrix often and deal with programs, whereas there is an episode where he's trapped in the Matrix. He's trapped on the grid, right? That's kind of the idea of it. But this looks like they're going the other direction. They're going to show more into Zion.
Well,
right?
they've got, like, in the original movie, one of the main programmers goes and talks to the CEO, and he's like, "This is our spirits. This is our souls we're putting into it." So it gets all animist, right? Even the original Tron, it's wild. It's
extremely Gnostic thing, yeah.
Yeah, but also, like, within the context of the Tron world, there's like a religion, like heretical religion, where they believe in the users, right? Where they believe in
contacting the user, totally, which is something that they know. The guy who runs the MCP, the Master Control Program, knows that the users exist, but they call the religion heretical, and they don't want anyone to be interacting with the users, right? That's like the sort of, there's something that's stopping that from happening. And in the second one, you realize that the user, I mean, they have such an admiration for the user. They think, well, you must have a plan, because the users always have a plan, because God has a plan, is the way that they're thinking. And he has to explain, actually, we're just making it, users are just making it up as we go along as well, and showing that this is sort of a game to them, right? So it's a whole level there about who can you trust beyond your spirit realm on the other side of the spirit realm. But both worlds are just as real in a sense. The Matrix world is a real world for these programs. They have spirit and they are made in the image of the users, but it's not like the Matrix per se, where the Matrix is a Buddhist parasitical control. I mean, I think there's much more suffering as a plot device for the Matrix. Tron is more about manifestation and apotheosis, right? Can these programs become users themselves? And that's essentially what the second movie is all about, but also that they're trying to be in the image of the way God used to be. And so God isn't just this constant thing, but a reflective being, which is something that most religions really push against. They don't like this idea that God being outside of time is reflective and changes and matures and reacts and everything. So God realizes that, because Clue says, "Did you make me to create the perfect system?" Like, well, yeah. So then he goes and he tries to purge all of these things which are not written perfectly. But those are the things that are the most interesting to the user, Flynn, because he's interested in their algorithmic, generative, natural, organic, digital biodigital jazz, he calls them, right?
So can the Facebook episode of South Park be canon?
Sorry, real quick. Sorry. What year was the original Tron released?
82, I think.
Oh, yeah.
1982. That's the year Philip K. Dick died, right? What was the predominant color in Tron?
Blue or red? I guess
blue.
Red.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
red
blue.
turning to blue. It starts red and it goes blue as it moves along.
Oh yeah.
But the good guy color is blue.
All right.
Yeah.
So what were video games like in 1982 to the average American with the complexity? And what was computer use to the average American in 1982? The depth of cyberspace that we were allowed. Like that movie in 1982, like that was kind of Eddie Van Halen kind of shit. Like,
I mean,
Kubrick could be Garcia, and we go there all the time. But like, how do you match 1982 Tron if you walked into that not knowing? That was insane. Right.
I think also, video games at the time, I would think of were like the Star Wars arcade game is really fascinating because on one hand, it doesn't have any images. It's just like these vector lines. But on the other hand, this is so good. This game is so crazy.
I've played this so much.
Yeah. 1 quarter can get you 30 hours if you're pretty into it. I mean,
that's right.
It's one of
I lost part too.
I have a hard time calling it an arcade game because this is like actually like a simulator. This, I think, is what that movie, The Last Starfighter, is based on. Like, this is not just a game,
I just had to look up, and actually 1982 was a banger of a year for video game. Listen to the roster of video games that came out. Dig Dug, Pitfall, Miss Pac-Man, Zaxxon, Donkey Kong Jr., Q*bert, Moon Patrol. These are all massive, massive arcade games. I remember playing these same exact games in the arcade in in the mid to late 1980s.
82 is incredible. All the great movies, all the great technology. I think the VCR started to become common. It was completely, I don't know what else do we have, because 82 to 84 is the transition in Pluto.
Yeah, but the immersion that we're talking about here is like the difference between smoking a cigarette, right, and having an espresso, or
I don't know, because for me, I was used to really realistic graphics by the time I even played this, because I'm younger, right? So I didn't play this in 1982, but when I did play this in like 2010 or something like that, and it already played everything else, all of the greatest high realistic, I mean, there were really realistic games already by that point, GTA 5 and everything. I felt like this was more real. There's something about the vector lines. It's like if I was in a spaceship traveling 10,000 miles an hour or something, I wouldn't want to see everything. I would want a system that refined everything down into vector objects so that I could focus on the things that mattered. And so for some reason, this game felt more immersive to me than a lot of the more realistic looking games with better graphics. It felt like,
so what's the common theme in the games in 1982? Impending death. Everything about video games in 1982 was like, holy shit, I'm about to die.
Actually, I would further that. So it's the Beowulf complex. So
you're about to be devoured.
Until you get
your
to
money
Mario
is about to be devoured.
Totally. But like, so you have Duck Hunt and Duck Hunt is Beowulf. You have Duck Hunt and you have Mario Brothers, and Mario Brothers is the hero's epic. It's like, no matter how bad it gets, I won't be scared because I have to face the greatest monster. How great is the monster? The worst monster possible. Is it because of me? No, that would be selfish. It's selfless that I'm saving the damsel in distress. It's a classic European, well, really Visigothic or Persian archetype, right? The sort of this epic, but then there's another kind of epic, which is the Beowulf epic. And that's Duck Hunt, Pac-Man, virtually every game that Tetris. These are games where you don't win the game. What happens is you defeat more and more dragons until you get to like the 50th level and you die because you're old, right? And then they sing, and then they put your name down and remember you.
Yeah, but Beowulf still killed the dragon. He still got there.
Yeah, but you got to keep going to Grendel.
It's very Blade Runner. You retire, right?
Yeah. Well, but Beowulf doesn't just kill the dragon. Beowulf actually loses at the end. He kills the first.
He wins.
He decides he loves the girl.
Killed too, but he wins.
He does get once he gets old. He can't really win anymore.
He still kills the dragon. He kills. I just read Beowulf, by the way, like this month. Okay, so he kills the dragon, and then it's a weird sync that you're talking about Beowulf of all things. But he kills the dragon, but the dragon mortally wounds him as well. He's like roasting in his armor. And so he's able to get all the rest of his friends are like, oh, we're too scared. We're not going to come out there. But the one guy who goes to help Beowulf gets out there, and Beowulf is like, just bring me some gold. I just want to see the treasure. And he brings them the treasure, so he gets to enjoy a bit of this treasure and then just give it to the people, give it to my people.
What's Moon Patrol? Somebody just sent me a message that says Moon Patrol.
Moon Patrol was we basically were driving a tank around on the top of the moon, and you were like shooting little like UFOs in the sky or something and collecting little orbs. It was a precursor to Master Blaster on NES.
Oh, okay, cool. Did you know that if that was Duck Hunt? That
80s video games about impending death, right? Remember 80s movies about video games? Absolute horseshit.
I mean,
like an absolute farce. Like to make a video game movie in the 80s, it was like you had to be. It was even before David Foster Wallace's post-ironic, apocalypse. I mean, it was just like a John Travolta movie in the 80s. It was just like trash. You know what I mean? But
wasn't it that Tron?
Video game TV shows are taken seriously.
What about
happened?
But it was always fictional games, right? So like Tron and the Last Starfighter, those are like game movies. But then you're talking like Super Mario Brothers with Bob Hoskins and whatever.
I feel like
combat.
I feel like Mortal. You're talking. That's the thing. 90s movies are different than 80s movies. I think when I think about video game movies, there's like in the 80s you got Last Starfighter, joysticks, War Games, Tron, Cloak and Dagger even counts, Nightmare with I don't know.
Dude, this War Games totally Strange Attract Starfighter, and like that's kind of I never made that connection before. And Project X, because those monkeys are all playing video games, right?
Yeah, I'd say Project X is one of the best 80s movies about video games, to be fair. But the 90s movies about video games are kind of cool. I feel like 80s movies about comic books were great, like Dolph Lundgren and The Punisher. That was like just about the Miami cocaine vibe. It was pretty impressive. But the 90s movies about video games were, like Mario Brothers, and some people might say it's the worst one, but I think it's the best one because it's the most Back to the Future. It's weird. You've got Dennis Hopper as Koopa Trump, you have the two, and
it's got the whole 9/11 death trip, man.
They literally blow up the two towers in that movie and put a giant double K on it, the 11/11 on the towers for King Koopa. It's so weird.
So weird.
And they turned the guy into an ape right on the scene. Isn't that the same scene? Am I tripping?
Lizard shit, I think.
Yeah, well, but when they do that the reverse evolution gun, and they like make the guy into an ape. There's just like I'm just saying like there's something weird going on there. Like everything to me is just like 2001: A Space Odyssey and like every single 9/11 sync. But yeah, is that the?
This is one of the most vivid depictions of the Twin Towers being destroyed in any movie. And this is from 1993. And it's important to remember 1993 is the year of the first, right after this is the first World Trade Center attack, right? That we were just talking about earlier.
Right, which was the day and year of the release of Falling Down.
Right.
Dude, watch the beginning, like the first 15 minutes of the X-Files movie, thinking it's post 9/11. And then after you watch it, realize it's pre 9/11.
Sure.
That shit'll fuck you up, man. Like it's nuts. Like it's so like greasy,
Saw this recently, right? Everyone was talking about the blue bus from the fires, and I was remembering. Oh yeah, that's the bus in Back to the Future.
142.
What is the deal?
No, that's
with that bus that it just did.
Alexander Supertramp.
Oh sure, I dig it. But what the hell? This bus was just there and didn't get singed and everything's burnt all around it. I don't understand. That's what that's about.
Exact inversion of that story.
Well, it screams of 9/11 because of the thing that if you read Dr. Judy Wood's book Where Did the Towers Go, or see her presentations on it, where she talks about dustification and the way that that whatever it was that happened on 9/11, there's an extremely strong argument that it was some type of technology that was like the opposite of a neutron bomb, where as a neutron bomb would kill organic life and leave the buildings, this is something that destroyed the buildings and disintegrated it and left the organic life alone, and if you want evidence of this, there's a lot beyond even just her presentation. But there's a documentary from Canada where they interview the 14 survivors on the second story of Tower 2 who describe like after the towers fell, the light coming in from above, a whole freaking building fell on top of them. How are they seeing sunlight like shortly after the towers collapse, and they're on the second story. Like it just doesn't make any sense unless if you start entertaining something like free energy or something. But that reminds me,
because the typical like the standard conspiracy explanation from the architects, 9/11 architects, a lot of that has to do with nanothermite, which is something created in a laboratory, not something you could create in just like an industrial factory.
You can though, and this is how, and this is something that she demonstrates, Judy Wood, is she's showing you how if you actually grind up metals finely enough, various metals, you can actually create thermite. So like
but the plan was this nanothermite, like an even smaller version of it, which were, I guess, evidenced by these little molten orbs they found all over the place, which, and one of the explanations could have only happened on like this nanothermite scale, which isn't something you can do by yourself by grinding stuff. It would actually require some kind of high-tech device.
What she's arguing, and she's really great because she doesn't actually assert any of this like this is what it is. She just adds up information that she does know and then say these are possibilities. But one of the things that she's showing is that the amount of how whatever happened with those towers, like there's evidence that it did something with the metal that we normally would never be able to do, like easily like that. Like just demolishing a building wouldn't be enough to make it fine enough for them to intermix and create thermite. So when you're saying like the reports that are on nanothermite and all that, I'm totally open. I don't know what the hell, but like she shows stuff that like, you really, I cannot explain it, and I don't know who can. The row of trees at ground zero that have no singe on them, they look totally fine, directly next to a row of cars that are completely burnt to a crisp. Like burnt to holy hell.
Into steel and concrete. This is crazy. Look at this Bible here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really strange anomaly.
Does it explain why the passport was found completely intact?
Because they planted a passport. It's like that way. I don't think that came from the plane. I think everybody knows that. Even the people who are like totally into the narrative, they got to be like, yeah, let's just skip to something else. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Here's the thing, man. Like in Tron with video games, right?
I see it. Yeah.
Noah, I sent you a link to like a Grok thing I did where I asked Grok to attribute different technological or just in general mediums to the planets and certain things to the constellations as the message. And so the medium is the message. Like we're in this transition where the planets are taking over the control of the planetary kind of zeitgeist. Like the 60s was like this outpouring of constellatory like celebration, individual kind of message driven shit, but it was all TV. It was all lunar, you know what I mean? And this new Tron is red, and the medium associated with the moon was television, and the medium associated with Mars is video games, right? And like it's a cybernetic sort of interactive zone, right? It's not an opiate like television. It's a different arena that the zeitgeist is functioning in. And that's what I think, isn't that what X is? Like Planet X is X. It was like taking over the blue Twitter and replacing it with the red of X. I mean, anyways, I think that planetary forces are completely correspondent to technological forces right now, especially with media, you know. So I wonder if you had any thoughts on that, Noah.
Well, yeah. So Pluto is in Aquarius right now, which implies battles and control grids over, especially information on the internet. Like that's where we're in for is an information war. But when Uranus moves into Gemini, another air sign, and Uranus being about technological innovations in part and personal freedom, moving into the most yang, most independent sign in the zodiac, it's going to be in a trine pattern, you know, this pattern of energetic ease with Pluto. It's interesting times we're in. I mean, it's real interesting.
So why is it that Pluto why is it that way, that Pluto into Aquarius causes, you know, for data and for hoarding of archives data information, you know.
Okay, so Pluto it's the chthonic realm, right? But it's also power struggles, and it's also it's brute force in a way too, but it can be hidden, sort of like subversive subterranean force. And Aquarius is traditionally a Saturn ruled sign. It's actually a very rigid and structured sign in an air sign. So air is about ideas. So Saturn is fixed, or Aquarius is fixed, ruled by Saturn. So Aquarius is really a really rigid sign that wants Aquarius leans into the side of Saturn that wants to cut off things that no longer matter, that are no longer important, right? Like Saturn castrated his father. You know, his father, Uranus was tyrannical, so he castrates him. So Aquarius is more the side of Saturn that wants to get rid of the old things that no longer benefit, growing a deep, powerful root. And Pluto within Aquarius, an air sign, and Aquarius is often collated to future ideas of changes, and especially within social groups, societal norms. Pluto is going to try and stop a lot of these things from happening. There's going to be a lot of in the first ingress Pluto made into Aquarius in Canada, we had all this, it was like 3 months. Canada put all this legislation on the table about banning news ads on Facebook and all this wild, really totalitarian control over information flow. And that was like, because I was aware of that. I mean, my astrology teacher's been talking about this for decades, that when Pluto gets to Aquarius, there's going to be a significant battle over free information. So the other interesting thing about Pluto and Aquarius is now I'm thinking December, November, it came back into Aquarius for good. Now it's not going to move for 20 years. It's going to be in that sign. All of a sudden, at the beginning of this year, you had all the drones. So you had Pluto fear in the sky, Aquarius, an air sign. You had all this fear coming from the skies. You had all these plane crashes. It was relentless.
Yeah.
Like that Pluto and Aquarius was just like, this is what I'm going to do.
Although we had reporting on plane crashes exaggerated.
Yeah.
If you actually look at the amount of crashes compared to what it normally is, it was like, the news is misleading sometimes like that. You'll be like, yeah, these are stories, but you're like, how often does this happen that it's just a tiny little blurb, and now we're all like hyper focusing on it. That one was weird though, with the plane that landed upside down with no wings though, relatively recently. That was pretty crazy.
In Minneapolis, yeah.
And yet it still resonates with fear in the skies. So the media is doing it, right? But it still resonates with Pluto and Aquarius.
So Noah, I don't know astrology that well, but in this same Grok conversation I had about attaching correspondences between mediums and planets, Uranus was Bitcoin and Pluto was the dark web. Does that align? That
makes sense.
All right.
Yeah. I could go with that. And like I was saying, Uranus and Taurus, specifically because Taurus has to do with wealth and with earthly concerns. So Uranus and Taurus especially. Uranus moving into Gemini. Like anytime Uranus is in Gemini, we have all kinds of like technological advancements, new ideas coming in like crazy.
Because isn't this whole last election cycle about people thinking, like the boomer generation thinking X is like the dark web?
X is the dark web, isn't it?
Like to them, that's the dark web. That's
I think they think the web is dark.
Go into or something like.
Yeah,
it really is a dark web. Like
on X, yeah, you can get full movies with the wrong soundtrack on X. It's crazy.
Yeah, but only from criminals.
Wrong.
Terrible Kabbalistic criminals.
They got to shut that down. That's it.
I report every one of those I see.
Get rid of it.
David has left the chat.
No, but they do have the kids these days we were looking at a protest the other day. I saw some video and they were like, why are all the people to protest 60 or 70? And I think it's a big thing is they're all boomer Karens confused about Doge. They're confused about how computers work. That's it. They're all just so upset. They're like, these kids are 18.
Their lawns.
My kid is younger than my kid, and he's running the country. It's like, yeah, Grandpa, you should probably sit down now and like face your wheelchair out. Do you want to see it towards the window or away from the window? They're so confused about what it works.
That's right, because the only way that you can actually have any idea of what's actually going on with Doge at all is their website and what's shared from their profiles on X. So if you want to there's no real substitute right now for directly seeing it. And so if you got older people who aren't doing either of those things, they don't even know they're just knowing what people say about it. They're not seeing what it is. And even if you are looking at what they're sharing, it's still extra steps to even get an idea beyond that of what you're actually even looking at. So, or how much of it is being kind of misrepresented even there. So yeah, it's
even just looking at X can make someone get the ick, right? It makes them feel like they are feeding into this abhorrent beast that they want nothing to do with, even though it is truly the de facto source of a lot of this communication. So if you are turning away from it because you're repulsed by it, you're also willfully being ignorant of it, right?
So that's a huge, well, just because Facebook, I think a huge reason why Trump won the first election was because Facebook worked that way, where you could just block people and they could tell you didn't want to interact with certain people. So they turned that down. And a lot of people were in their comfort zone, in their little bubble. And they were like, whoa, how could I possibly not have seen anyone? I thought everyone agreed with me. And you're telling me more than 50% of the country, all the thousands of accounts that are blocked, that they're real people that still exist. Now Twitter's forcing you to see things you don't want to see. And I feel like for me, Facebook does that now more too, because it clearly knows how I respond and react and emotionally. If I laugh at some sort of woke, plight of, this fentanyl dealer has been sent to El Salvador, don't you feel bad for her? And you just laugh, so clearly they know how I respond, and they just keep pushing more and more of the things I disagree with, hoping that I'll cause more engagement. But I think that's a very different way to live your life than let's surround yourself in your peers. Let's surround yourself with yes men and peers, which is the way the boomers were, up until I feel like 4 years ago. It started to become more common.
By the way, this is in that canon episode of South Park about Tron and Facebook. What you're just describing, right? The whole safe space thing. Isn't that included in there?
Oh, man, it's been a while since I saw that one. I know also there's the tin hats that Butters has a little committee at Facebook that they're all typing troll accounts.
Oh, that's another one. That's another Facebook thing. But
there's another Tron canon South Park episode
where Stan goes into Tron, like he gets.
Well, there's that.
He's like, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into it. He didn't want to join Facebook, and then he has to join Facebook, and then his dad's giving a hard time for not adding grandma, and then he gets like taken into Facebook, and he's like a character in Facebook, and people are just interacting with him as Facebook profiles. And then they have to play Yahtzee.
Yeah, but
there's another one. There's another one too, the safe space one. But yeah, where Cartman sings a song about my safe space.
Which one are you talking about? Wait, which one are you talking about, Noah?
Well, I'm talking about the night of the meteor shower, where we learned the master control program is actually Tetragrammaton.
That's very important. I just watched that one recently too. So, like in the Jubilee episode, where Moses is the MCP, right?
Oh, is it Moses?
Yeah, Moses is the giant control. Yeah. For Jew Scouts.
I feel like there's a balance to be had for just my mental health when it comes to social media. But the thing, like what I get out of X, like if I sit down and I'm looking at X for a while and I don't experience some cognitive dissonance, I feel like I'm not getting like more of the full experience of what it should be, because like I ultimately like being challenged. If I get challenged so much that it's just like, or that somebody's just so dense or thick-headed that it's just pointless, then I can get frustrated. I actually don't experience much difficulty with X in that capacity as I do on Facebook, only because I know the people on Facebook, or they think they know me. And so that can get really frustrating when you're like, seriously, dude, like, what the hell? And then I should just call those people and talk to those people is the way I should deal with that. But anyway, no, I like when I come up against something that I actually learn something. Like, because there'll usually be like an argument, and then there's like something in the midst of their argument that they make some point where it's like, oh, wow, I didn't actually know that. And then I get to like adjust within that. But, like, because how would it just suck if you just knew everything all the time anyway? Like there would be no development. Like,
trust me, it's not very fun.
That's your life, Thomas.
Why are you so paranoid?
Blessing and a curse.
You're right. Yeah, blessing and cursed. Always know it all already. But yeah, no, I don't know.
The X algorithm is bizarre though. Like I find that they seem to have it on like an hourly cycle where suddenly they'll just slam your feed with just one thing.
So I customize mine, and I don't mean that just by like trying to make a safe space. What it is that when there's like certain things, I'm like, what's the relevance of this? I literally like, show me less of this post. Why? Because it's not relevant to me. So the fighting stuff, it'll just be like fight videos or accidents or just whatever crap that just feels like something that isn't news to me. Like I don't care, like other than the, oh my God, look, like I try and it works. I have to do it a bunch of times. But like I do it, say 10 different ones, and then I can see my feed adjust itself accordingly. Like
it would be so nice on X in particular if you could go to Grok and just have a conversation with the AI and tell it what you want your algorithm to be. Like, here's how to refine it. Here's the things that I want. Obviously, that's in my opinion, that's one of the biggest lies of this entire technological revolution, is that the promise is that if you give all of your preferences to the computer, then the computer will curate this wonder world for you. And the truth is that they just harness that stuff and then to decide, will you buy Q-tips or Nike shoes? If I show you one of these two ads right now, has absolutely nothing to do with your preferences, and I don't think it ever will, because if you're content with the content you're getting, then you won't feel empty. You won't feel like you need a new pair of shoes or you need to jam a Q-tip in your ear because everything else is sort of like falling into place.
Sure.
So why is
now
it
I'm getting worried that, like, you know how it's like you have a conversation with your friend about like ribs, and then in your feed you get like these barbecued ribs videos,
Totally. Right. Yeah.
So what if it's listening to me on a day-to-day basis, and what if, because I'm being an asshole, it's showing me like these fight videos?
I mean, very possible, actually. I see ads from Home Depot to buy sinks. So I mean, it could be.
There you go.
What do you think the deal is with the? I just want to do Tron for a second because we brought it up so much. Like, so Tron the Baptist. What's the deal with the water, with the baptism? What are they trying to say with Tron the Baptist? And then the other thing, when he gets sucked into the portal thing, why does it start with his hand, with his pinky like that, and end with his phallus being scanned? Right. It starts with his
joystick is being taken.
Right.
Being replaced.
Is this like a Kabbalistic, metaphor? Is there some sort of a reason?
It could be because Yesod and Malkut at the base, because the legs actually would be Netzach and Hod. So yeah, that makes sense.
Could this not be Mormonism, and this is just a handshake through the veil?
Seems it's but Mormonism is Judaism, just with like extra steps or something. So I mean, what do you think with the pinky though? Is there a reason why it starts with his left hand like that? Or his right hand?
Noah, what's the planetary correspondence to the pinky? I know that like peace symbol, you got Jupiter and Saturn. Venus? I forget.
Yeah, I honestly I don't remember the individual hands, but in general the hands are Mercury. As a whole, they're Mercury. Like this whole thing is Mercury. Your arms. And
okay, but where's the? Just look at Palmistry planetary.
Yeah, I don't.
Palmistry might be the key. There we go. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. So what do we got? Mercury. Oh, it is Mercury as the pinky.
It had to be. That's nuts. Okay, so the messenger, right? And that's the person.
Why doesn't it show the moon for the thumb? I could have sworn traditionally the moon corresponds to the thumb, but whatever.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
There are a lot of different systems though. Like they don't all agree.
Right, but the palmistry, a traditional, like there is a traditional palmistry set of planetary associations for the hand, like, and those had been consistent in medieval times.
Okay.
But yeah.
But even within that, I mean, there's a Vedic tradition and there's all these different branches, right? Like they shift. I mean,
yeah, I don't. I am a kind of a backwards occultist in certain ways. Like a lot of occultists take the most recent thing to be the authority, whereas I take the most ancient.
Sure.
Just my own, prerogative, but whatever.
Yeah,
but any thoughts? Also, any thoughts about like the water thing, like because it's a huge part.
Well, so I also watched Tron pretty recently too.
Nice.
And I've been learning tarot. Like I didn't grow up using tarot. I've been like studying tarot really deeply. So I'll like lay out when I'm watching a movie. I'll like lay out all the cards of like one suit that aligns with that movie. So you lay out the wand cards and you sort of follow along, all the different correspondences and stuff. And so this winds up being the 4 of wands, basically, where they're having like a celebration, So this is like after the first battle, they have this moment of rest in a movie, and it's generally that way, right? If you're looking at the end of the first act, if you look at the Decans,
wouldn't it be the cups with the water? I don't know. Why not?
Oh well, I mean, if it's an action movie, you're looking at wands. If it's like,
and they don't have cups to use. They have to use their hands to do the thing, right? So
right. Well, certain movies, I've discussed this before, but certain movies will actually use the 22 arcana in their plot structure.
Oh, yeah.
Examples of that are Groundhog Day and Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Nice.
But, Tron, Metatron, isn't that obvious? Isn't that why it's Tron? Is that, which would correspond to Da'at in the Kabbalistic tree?
So this is the third Tron that we're thinking about right now, the Aries one or Aries one.
That's coming out, yeah.
All of them, but the first Tron is the one that I remember seeing this as a kid.
Yeah, but what about the sequel?
The second one, yeah.
Remember the gimmick?
That he's using I Ching?
No, remember the gimmick of the second Tron?
What's the gimmick?
Can you not remember the gimmick?
I can think of like a dozen things that were gimmick about that movie.
There was a very tactile gimmick.
What was it? Tell us.
Come on, you don't remember?
I remember I saw it on Cyanescence with 3D glasses in the Castro, but I don't know how much of it I retained. What do you got?
I retained it all. Andy Dick was sitting next to me.
And you don't put on the glasses. And then it tells you when to put on the glasses.
I thought I wore glasses through the whole freaking movie.
They told me not to wear the glasses at first because they had some Tron laser show at I saw it in the Goring.
No, Wizard of Oz is into 3D.
Okay.
You don't remember that shit?
Dude, I
don't remember Wizard of Oz having anything to do with Tron Legacy. When is Wizard of Oz?
I also remember that I had written Mark Leclerc about this.
He doesn't put on the glasses until you get into the Tron world.
Okay.
You're right. In the regular world, you have regular scenes, and it doesn't happen until you get into the Tron world. That's true.
Okay. Yeah, but wasn't that God? I mean, you're saying like the Emerald City that you had to put on the glasses to see the Emerald City. Is that the correspondence to Wizard of Oz?
That was the thing.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare, had that the 3D glasses was just towards the end of the movie. They like go into this other realm or whatever, the dream realm. It's like put on the glasses now, and I remember like how exciting that was, like when it came out.
I was in a real deep sinkhole because I had been talking with Leclerc about syncing metal with Inception, and if you remember at the end of Inception. Cillian Murphy is in that Tron chamber with Hitler, and he gets the pinwheel. Do you remember that scene at the end of Inception?
Totally.
Anyways, I go to myself when Tron is released. I go, Cillian Murphy's got to be in Tron. He's got to make an appearance, right? He's not listed anywhere in the credits, but he's in the movie for like 10 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, it's fucking nuts, man.
Oh, yeah, he totally is, because he's the guy who runs the corporation at the beginning. He's the CEO, basically, or the tech guru who's made the OS 9 or something like that. And Flynn OS 9, which son of Flynn open sources to the public, which is the explanation for how he got Linux or something, like the military industrial secrets that they've had for decades. And he's in the Richard Gere character, I think it is, right? He's like, what's the difference? Like, now we put a 9 on the box. So it's the same thing we've had for decades, is like the point. Nothing's changed for 20 years. We've just been rehashing this for the public. And all of a sudden, it's just free for everyone. It's like, well, say it was part of the plan. What do we do about it? Nothing. Say it was part of the plan. That's all we can do at this part. And that's straight up Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, and that movie with the dude, I mean, it was... a forgotten gem, I think. I don't even know what year that is. What is that, 2008?
What, Tron Legacy? 2010. Yeah. 2010. Close. It was right after Princess and the Frog, I think. Yeah. It was great, though. I mean, there's a lot to that movie.
And Frog, the Muppets?
The Disney replacement of Splash Mountain Song of the South. That was the beginning of the remaking and the rebranding of everything.
Which is an interesting coincidence that because I just did this movie for Occult Disney recently, and it's weird because phasing out Song of the South was a little bit easier for Disney because they're trying to cover up their tracks of Uncle Remus and straight up replace him. So what are the statistical chances that Disney takes the only other black protagonist in all of their parks and replaces it with another black protagonist that is supposed to be, you know, the better version of, like, here's the new world version of a black protagonist versus Uncle Remus. I don't know,
which I find really weird because Uncle Remus was a better black protagonist. So like, this is a girl who works. She's like basically a Nazi. She just has to work all the time because she wants to like have a restaurant. Like, and it's not about her being you know, treated equally, or there's a lot more exploitation that's pointed out in the story, and I don't see her as somehow a hero that you want to emulate. Whereas Uncle Remus is a guy who's saving his culture and he's sharing it with his enemy's children. Essentially,
no arguments here, by the way. I'm just saying the Disney PR perspective of all this. I agree. I think Princess and the Frog, that Tiana is one of the worst protagonists of all time, because she doesn't get it, man. She doesn't understand that you're not supposed to work harder and harder, and that somehow the harder you work, the more moral you know, authority that you have. That's not how the world has ever worked or will ever work. But it's a weird thing to implant in this new generation.
It's literally on a concentration camp wall. You know, that shouldn't be the Disney kids.
But isn't this just the nature of, like, doesn't it feel like there's this increasing thing happening? It's not just Disney, but Disney's a really good, just explicit representation where they have these supposed intentions of whatever, ESG, whatever, but then it comes through the back door in these really obvious ways. We're not going to have dwarfs in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and we're never going to use the word dwarf. And it's like, and then there's all these dwarfs that are like, that's what we are. What, no one wanted to hire us? It's like, and then also that they're doing a live action movie, right? But then the dwarves aren't live action. So what the hell? Like, you're going to do CGI, like, those could easily be people, and you just denied them jobs and fame. And why is it? It's because the most famous little person like objected, and then they just decided that he was going to be the voice of little people to like just make that decision. That's just one example. Every part of it, that they got the evil witch, give it to Gal Gadot, the Israeli lady. Let's give the Snow White to somebody who isn't white. I'm not saying that that's like even necessarily in and of itself like wrong, but you got to admit that it's totally like ironic and like a setup for them to get criticism in other ways and levels than they otherwise would. Like, in trying to do the right thing and that overcompensation, they keep shooting themselves directly in the foot. And then like, I wonder if those execs right now are like wondering like, why did we get 1.7 or whatever rating out of 10 on IMDb, including from just the critics and the audience? Like, ooh, it's like on every level, it's just so bad. But it's all in this attempt to appeal and to do the right thing. But man,
I feel like I mean, I try not to be a conspiracy theorist, but when you've spent $180 million on a movie by 2022, and it's 3 more years before you make it, so you're going to be doubling that because everything was wrong. And so they spent $350 million or something like that on Snow Woke. I think that's on purpose. I mean, if you look at Hollywood,
I'm open to it because what the hell else? Like Bud Light. Like, but it looks like Bud Light did that for the ESG rating, because the ESG rating in the long run was worth that much to them to have this temporary drop. That they knew it'd be temporary. People aren't going to stop drinking Bud Light, but they know that if we do this kind of sacrificial thing, then in the long run it'll benefit us. But is ESG going to be the safety net that they've planned on, given the direction that things are now taking? Like, was all their eggs in that basket because of the future that they thought they had? Kind of similar to what I was talking about earlier about like the theory that they've like basically like sped up what they were already planning to do with COVID hysteria. Like, they were going to wait a couple more years, but they're like, oh, screw it, let's do it now. Like, is that kind of, I don't know. It seems like not that similar.
It does. I feel like that's the deal, is that they could say that they tried and that they put all this effort into making a movie this way, and this is evidence it doesn't work. But they knew that was going to happen in 2022 because they already had a controversial character. You have Israeli versus a Palestine supporter as your two main characters. There's just too much. There's just too much there to work with to cause.
The whole message is.
It's guerrilla theater.
Right?
The Palestinian supporter doesn't get awakened. Like, it doesn't. The woke doesn't happen, right?
Snow Woke, yeah, it's waking up Snow White. It's really waking up Snow White.
She stays in a coma.
Oh shit, you're right. Okay, dude, let's trip out on the sync of this for real. The first animated film ever made, the first feature length animated film ever made, Snow White. the waking up, she's asleep, woke, the precipice of wokeism, and then it's a absolute flop. And like even just seeing her laughing in the empty theater and the whole thing, dude, the poetry of that wokeism is Snow White.
And what does Disney do? Disney doesn't just make movies. Disney does all sorts of crisis actor stuff at Disneyland. You know, they have people that are there that are cast members. If you're at Disney working there, you're a cast member, even if you're a janitor. So the idea that they know people aren't just watching movies anymore, and they have an entire industry built around figuring out what people actually do for their amusement park so that they can have a more than multimedia presentation. I feel like that's the point.
Oh, you're right.
It's not about the movie. Dude, it's about the movie. You know,
that's like as if like, I'm sorry to just go there, but like if Woodstock, if they knew ahead of time, if they had a team of people that were like, okay, we're gonna make it's a free festival. You can't have it be a free festival. We're gonna lose money. No. The long game. Look at the long game. Like they could have done that intentionally. I know with Woodstock they didn't. They thought it was a failure, and they were just so high. They were just like, "Oh, screw it!" And then in the long run, you know, documentary.
Maybe. I mean, they made so much money selling albums.
Snow White's name? The actress Ziegler, Bricklayer.
Yeah, Rachel Ziegler, right? And she's in some new movie also about Y2K. So that was another thing I should pull up. That Y2K. Have you seen that movie yet? Y2K.
I've seen it.
So tell us about it. Is it any good? Because to me, I wondered what it was. I mean, to me, it seemed like that must be
not bad. I mean, it's a little schlock. It's that the computers come to life and they turn into sort of like these biomech android things that literally are shooting CDs out of the CD-ROMs and killing individuals one by one instead of just planes falling out of the sky.
So
like
it's
Rachel
Ziegler. It's literally
the name of the robot
Tron.
in Blade Runner. It's Rachel.
That's true.
Well, I wanted to what you were saying, David.
This robotic bricklayer. It's this fake pyramid. It's this Hollywood sham. You know what I mean? It's like I
don't know if this is the same business strategy, but there was a point in time in which McDonald's was technically a real estate company more than they were anything else because they were using all of their money to buy up very specific. And I kind of see Disney as the mental version of that. They are spending money and you think it's the movie, but it's not. What they're doing is they're buying real estate inside your brain and inside your kids' brains. And one of the versions of this, maybe Snow White might be an extreme version, but the Lion King action movie comes out, right? The real life remake. And as long as it breaks even, or even if it loses money, what it does is it introduces this intellectual property to a brand new generation of kids. And then the parents go and see it because the parents love the first one. And then they say, oh, that wasn't as good as the first one. Let's go watch the first one together, kids. And now Disney just had you watch 2 of their films, and beyond your ticket sales and beyond like the Netflix royalties, it means that the next time that there's a freaking Lion King Happy Meal, you and your kids and your grandkids all know what that is, and you'll all go and buy that Happy Meal. It's very much a Fabian style long game.
Plus,
it's
Mufasa
hilarious.
is kind of about Moses, right? Like Mufasa is about he's like floated down a river and he ends up out, becoming the brother of the pharaoh, and then he takes over the kingdom. It's like Akhenaten.
Lion King is also about
Hamlet
teaching carnivores to eat bugs, and that this is the new accepted. Like, hey kids, eat bugs. It's the new thing. And how we can survive this planet. What a weird inversion, out of all the animals on the planet that you would say switch your diet to bugs entirely, you're going to go with a lion.
Right. And also Alan Abadessa Green's video, shout out Hindsight 2020 on the syncbook.com, that web series, and the way that he shows how the Lion King is like implicitly embedded in the way things have played out between Obama and Trump over time. Like, it's just crazy. Like, starting point, that correspondence dinner where Obama's like, not only do I have my birth certificate, but I have footage from my birth. And then he's played the beginning of The Lion King. And then it was like that weekend, right after that happened, that they killed Osama bin Laden, right? So like, and then there's
Osama means king in Japanese, and tiger in Arabic, or vice versa. I forget if it's the other way around.
I think it's actually lion.
Lion, it's lion. Yeah, lion in Japanese.
It's just
in Arabic.
wouldn't do it justice, but like the levels that this one right here is a Sync News, but if you scroll down a tiny bit there to the right below that, see that says hindsight 2020 there. That series is like it's freaking nuts. But yeah, I don't even know if it's the first one that even goes deep into the Lion King, but this is like, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours of just like totally incredible stuff. But yeah, anyway, there you go.
It's pretty insane.
yeah, it's totally insane. And props to Alan for making it. But yeah, anyway, the king kill ritual is a huge part of the Lion King. Obviously, like there's a ritual element to even like the way you're describing, Thomas, that you're gonna kind of like condition people in these different ways, and then that's the real investment, is almost like an ideological investment, right? So there's like these kind of, and I don't always know like the degree to which is this like methodically, like did they do this so purposely to achieve these ultimate results, or is this just the modern, this is kind of an oxymoron, but like the current anthropological workings, you know what I mean? Like, is this just, I don't know. Like, is this just the way we are and what we do?
I almost think that within the corporation or egregore of Disney, which I think is a better word for it, within this egregore of Disney, you have almost a polarizing election within the company where there is a Donald Trump versus Joe Biden all the way until the last cut of a movie and it comes out and one side wins over another side. This happens. Another extreme example of the opposite of Snow Woke would be Mars Needs Moms, where the general premise is that the nuclear family is the only solution to raise a new generation of kids. It can't just be done with the mom and it can't be done with the dad. It has to be both of them as a united pair. And they got incredible backlash from this new wave of parents that were like, wait a minute, I take offense to this entire premise.
Right. And isn't it weird? Like, okay, I'm sorry. 2001 Space
Warriors Odyssey. Need moms. Mars. The Warriors.
So I'm thinking of WALL-E and how WALL-E has all this HAL 9000 symbolism in it, right? But if you look at the timeline, you're like 1968, 2001 A Space Odyssey, we have accepted that, the artificial intelligence is scary and deadly. Okay. It's something to be aware of and to fear. And then you go from like Terminator 2, it's both. We're supposed to be afraid of the machines, right? But Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's a good machine. He's here to save you. Like there's a sympathetic side to it. We're relating to machines as though they're human personalities. We're like projecting ourselves into them. And there's this compassion felt for machines sometimes that even outweighs our attitudes towards people. Like it gets crazy sometimes where people are like, leave that machine alone. But then you look at WALL-E. WALL-E is conditioning to children to get them to really relate to the replication, Metropolis replication. Like it is a living being that needs to be protected, and it's even a minority.
Or more than that, you're a machine like WALL-E. WALL-E is a person, but what's a person? Like you are like, WALL-E is a thing created for a purpose. Like
right.
You.
Then Ex Machina looking in the mirror and cutting your arm to see if there's freaking wires inside. You know what I mean? It's just like
pulling that shit out like David Bowie and Man Who Fell to Earth for sure.
I'm still on the fence on whether or not WALL-E is Satan or Jesus, because technically they exist out in space. They've existed out in space for literally 666 years. Look it up. That's the number in the movie WALL-E. But they are living without any natural predators. They don't have any concerns about food. There's zero warfare. There's no conflict whatsoever. Right. The worst case scenario is that they're bored, and yet WALL-E, who represents the material Earth, brings them back, with Eve onto this planet. It almost feels
he's
like
a third degree. WALL-E is an Arabic word for the master. Like WALL-E.
Oh, is that right? I just thought the WALL-E was for 5 for like Johnny 5, because E is 5. So Johnny
I'm sure there's
WALL-E.
I feel like there's a few levels there, but like
tell me, you got something? I don't know. What the hell?
I don't know. Just like WALL-E, if you know, like in Arabic, you would be like the Wali is the authority of the general Aman who's in charge, right? So the supreme authority of the caliphate is the Wali, and also a wall. I think the Moors, right? The word to moor something means to make a wall. The Moors are known for their walls. So this idea that he's constantly going through and he's got this kind of barrier, this wall. Seems like that. It's Wali and Eve. You know what I mean? So it's the master and Eve, right?
Oh,
That's
for
the
real,
robot
right? Because then it's
feminine.
the other side. It's because Adam and Eve in the garden in the beginning, and this is the end,
and it
right?
all revolves around a plant. It revolves around a plant that Eve brings back to humanity. And again, I can't tell if that is them leading them out of the
Come
garden or
on.
back into the garden.
Well, that
It
kind
seems
of
like it's a Gnostic thing of Yaldabaoth, because the humans have become so soft that they've literally devolved into Pixar characters, right? Because they show
Whoa.
real looking people like us, but they show that they've been in space so long they've gotten softer and softer until everyone just
They
looks
turn
like
into
Pixar
babies.
characters.
They actually turn into literal babies.
Oh, you're right. Like the people in the ship where it's all like, what the
And there's
hell
no
was
old
that?
people too, if you notice that, which goes into some of the cannibalism theories.
I think it's also just a mortality
Ooh.
thing, though. But yeah, it could be like Logan's Run. I just figured that they've got some sort of genetic control over the population. They're not reproducing. They just have the same
Right.
people for
Although
like thousands of years.
Logan's Run was all like, how does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? But it's like everybody, and if you're not, you're like cast out. Whereas with Wall-E, where they're just like total like Costco consumers, like just drinking Slurpees and stuff. I mean, it's been a while, but that's how I remember it.
Apparently, Wali in Arabic can mean other things in Master. It could also mean custodian or protector. So that also, I
Oh,
think,
there you go.
Or, I think it means boomer.
Yeah. Speaking of which, did you watch Minecraft yet? Am I the only one who has finished this movie?
Oh my god! What did you
Okay.
watch it on cam, or did you actually go to the theater?
Better yet,
Hate
let me
this?
show you. Let me show you what I did. 'Cause I feel really embarrassed about
Did you
this.
sign a contract with these people? No, I'm sorry.
Dude, no, so okay, but you know who did? Do you know who freaking did? Do you know who worked on this movie that we all know, right? You know who makes
Black? I don't know who.
Eddie Lynn. Eddie Lynn
Oh.
from
Get
Oh.
the fuck out of here.
Eddie told me, he's like, I can't be doing Synctank right now for a while because I got a really important project to work on, but I can't talk about what it is, obviously, because you know how that is there. And then you look it up, like on the I want to find the photo to show you the credit of it, but he put up a photo from the credits of it. Oh, where is it? Hold on, Eddie. Minecraft.
Insanity.
I wonder if there's any bit of what he actually did that you can actually see. I mean, that wasn't that.
Yeah,
Eddie's,
yeah. I mean, I'll show you right
nice.
now. So right there, #1 name, the first name on the list for the Eddie. He's like,
look at that shit,
bro. He did this. He did this. We did this. You know what I mean? Like this is us. Here's one of his pictures. Oh, come back. Where is it? Here's one of the pictures that he worked on with the pig and stuff like that. Now, I didn't see the correct movie. This is the other thing. I'm gonna go pay to see it because I love Eddie and I'm actually I'm a good person. But I somehow I was forced to witness this it was not my fault, legally speaking, but I allegedly may or may not have seen a work print of the Minecraft movie. And so I'm watching the Minecraft work print, which I find out only later is not the finished movie. It's a rough cut of the movie that leaked online in the weeks before the movie came out, and it looked to me like amazing, but because it looked like trash. So they hadn't finished any of the CGI. The green screen, you could see green in their like hair, and like it was so poorly matted. It was not done yet, and there were actual sequences where the background were still illustrations because they hadn't finished the CGI yet. And I thought this was an aesthetic choice, and I actually recommend seeing the work print that way because it has that weird like meta Tron, old 90s, like the fact that it's messed up is actually works for the movie as an artistic choice. But yeah, the movie's not bad. I don't know if you guys have looked into the Minecraft movie. It's not woke, it's not conservative, it's not politically charged as far as I could tell. It has some really interesting occultic undertones and this idea of Steve and Garrett. Garrett is the Aquaman guy who's the winner of the 1989 vintage video game contest, because back in 1989 he was a great gamer, but he gets sucked into the Minecraft world where Steve is sort of the bodhisattva of this Minecraft world because he always wanted to be a miner. And then these kids are there and they're working. One girl's lost the father, she's working for the factory, and the kid is a rocket designer. He's like engineering rockets, which gets him sucked into the Minecraft world. But there's a lot of interesting symbolism, like the underground and the pigs and the pearls before swine, and then this idea of learning how things go together and forging everything. Granted, it's like definitely made for kids, but I feel like there's a lot of depth to the Minecraft movie. I don't know. Cool. What about you, Bill? Did the kids at school talk to you about Minecraft?
Well, here's the thing. I got like an esports thing developing, and a bunch of the homies, we're talking about. Well, they talked about the Sonic movie, which I was like, oh shit, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
All the mushrooms, yeah, it's a crazy movie, yeah.
But they talked about the Minecraft movie, like they had to see it. Even like the older dudes, like it was part of their
very
childhood.
Wizard of Oz.
Like they had to go see it just to affirm it as if it's authentic or not. Like there was like a
base, Jeremy. Thank you so much, man.
Like a guttural, like moral check of like, are they going to do this correctly? Like they're invested. This is part of their DNA. This Minecraft shit, man.
I like Minecraft. I play Minecraft. I clearly have a midlife crisis or something. But this movie, it is Wizard of Oz for kids or something, because they go off into this world that's essentially, how can you even explain? Wizard of Oz was so different when it happened. It was so mystical, but so was.
Well, listen, in Wizard
Matrix.
of Oz, the in jokes were for the adults. In Minecraft, the in jokes are for the kids.
True. Right.
Super totally.
True. There are dead people that they.
Kids clapping. They said very little laughter, but a lot of applause from people that got the references. So like reference.
I knew a kid who cried literally because in the movie there's a scene where there's a pig with a crown, and then someone says, who's that pig? Is that pig some sort of a king? And then the guy says, no, a legend. And it's just, and kids were crying. You're like, what is it? What does it mean? And then Minecraft legend scene, dead. Minecraft joke contains a tear-jerking tribute to a YouTube legend who died of cancer, whose Minecraft character
like legit slow claps from the kid audience.
Kids were just like, this is genius. They get it, and that's not easy to do. I don't think.
It's not. It's impossible. You're basically writing satire for indigenous people.
But it was incredible. It was
what
really
is
good.
Your reference point, man? Like
it
what?
It was really impressive, I thought, in a lot of ways because of that. Like the fact that kids can be, and also her T-shirt, the whole movie looks like New World Films, the New World Cinema thing, the logo. Do you see that circle on her shirt? There it is. That circle on her shirt right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. New World Pictures. The New World Pictures logo, right?
God damn.
Let's go back for a second. See, it's like basically, I can't help but kind of feel like that there's some sort of relationship there. And it's a Rupert Murdoch's weird company that made all sorts of weird freaking movies that, Grand Theft Auto, even the original, and all these,
Dude, I'm getting Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm buying the console. I'm buying whatever I need to. I think
just use Steam. Can't you? Isn't GTA going to be for Steam or no?
Really? What is that? What is that?
On a computer. Use your computer
to play games. You guys need to connect further beyond this and really figure that out. Because I want to know too. There's like, I'd like to play games again, but I don't want to buy one of these, heavy duty console things.
Well, no, that's the thing. A heavy duty console.
There's like $500 million invested in this fucking thing, man.
If you buy the console, you're going to be paying more for games. But if you can get a video card in your computer, or you get a computer that can play games,
but you know what I'm saying? If I spend $600 to see a $500 million movie, or $1 billion, this is like $1 billion we're spending.
That's exactly right. It's a movie, and it's like a 30-40 hour movie that you get to be a part of, and it changes every time. And it's going to be a big deal. It's true.
It's Bandersnatch.
No, this is like a mini internet they're creating. There's going to be internet in the game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's.
I look forward to this a lot. Plus, all of these. There's a new patent they have for characters. So these AI NPCs are generative, and they have generative hereditary traits.
What?
So you can have a homeless person that you find in the game who is assembled by different traits that exist. So they might have been originally working for a bank, but now they have a drug addiction problem, and it makes them, discoordinated.
What?
Yeah, it's like
you be careful, dude. You're gonna totally get zapped, and you're gonna just like watch your hand just go.
What does this mean?
Your crotch, you're just gonna be in the game.
It means like there's no such thing as like an NPC anymore, because even the NPCs are playing by the rules that are their logics, their priorities, they're priority driven.
Oh, speaking of which, I didn't know this until yesterday. I don't know. I found this interesting. I don't know, but with Duck Hunt, if you hook up a another controller to, like, I got an NES. I don't know if you guys have like the actual, one of those. But if you got the gun, I don't know if you can you do it with today's TVs? You probably can't. You need an old TV.
They have a thing that you can adapt.
You can do you can adapt it. But if you take the other controller, the second player, you can direct the duck. Another player can direct the duck to try and dodge the ball. I did not know that. So just like normally I would think the duck would be an NPC, but apparently the duck itself can be directed as well. So I didn't know that. I went through my whole childhood playing Duck Hunt and not realizing.
If you really want to hate your friends even more, yeah, you can play that way.
Okay. All right.
But like, will astrology affect Grand Theft Auto 6?
Oh, sure, why not?
It already has.
Like, if you go deep enough into Grand Theft Auto 6, would you see that events
yes.
like during Mercury retrograde will be affected?
Well, okay, so what I came on here to talk about was Back to the Future astrology. And what I've found is, honestly, astrology is real and it works in the imaginal realm. So whether something has been specifically planned, just like any sync work, right? Like, did they plan this out, or did the astrology just work? And actually, you showed the beginning of the film, so there's all kinds of interesting things. Do you guys know anything about the planetary hours? Does anyone know about that?
Sure.
Okay, so if you look at this, Doc Brown has his great experiment is that all the clocks are synchronized 25 minutes in the past for some reason. Like, we don't know why, but so the work I did with it. Hill Valley's a fake city, right? Like, I need a place because the planetary hours are based on a place. The natal chart is based on a place. What's rising, what's setting, what's culminating. And so I used Industry, California, because that's where they filmed the mall scene. So I think that's the most important part of the movie. So I just used that as a place. When he gets there, if the time is like 15 minutes to 8 or something like that, if that's the time, it's Venus hour, and he's there. He wants to play, and Venus is aesthetics. He wants to play the guitar, and he wants to have fun. And then he hears the message and realizes that it's actually later than that. At exactly 8 a.m. in Industry, the planetary hour changes to Mercury hour, and then he's got to run to school. He's got to like bustle around and do Mercury stuff and hang on to the truck and get to school on time. So that was like, it starts off with, we've already got something really interesting. Now the whole movie is Saturn coded, which is really fascinating because they go 30 years in the past and 30 years in the future. And Saturn is a 29.5-year cycle. So it winds up being, this is the Saturn cycle. And they go from a Saturn day to a Saturn day back in time.
One more Saturn day night.
Yeah, well, it's actually Friday night when he goes back, but it's after midnight, right? Like that.
Right. It's like Bohemian Grove. Yeah.
Yeah, he's calling teenagers and like, sneak out of your house and meet me at 1 a.m. But he's so yeah. Do you have those charts I sent you?
That would be one more Saturday night if you sneak out at 1 a.m. on Friday night.
Yeah, it's Saturday. It's Saturday. I mean, technically, if you're looking at the planetary hours, it wouldn't start till sunrise. But
Can I just say something about astrology that kind of like because I got in a debate once with my ex-girlfriend. I think it was actually our first fight in a 4.5-year relationship where we're walking along and I said something about astrology and she's like, astrology is bullshit. And I was like, excuse me, like what? like yes and no. Why do you say that? And we had this whole argument which ended with her saying, I'm like, where are you getting this? Because this is even you, or this, do you hear some of this stuff somewhere? Carl Sagan. She read Carl Sagan's book, and Carl Sagan had a chapter on astrology where he put the whole thing down. So I was like, okay, well, let's stop arguing, and I'll read what you read, and I'll see if I can interpret it. I look at it, and right away, I disagreed with some of his core premises, because he's like, okay, why do I know astrology is bogus? He's like, can we measure this? If we can't measure this, don't even, so he said a few things. First of all, he was like, we had astrology, and then we had astronomy, and astronomy took the place of astrology, which is a total misconception because they were one thing ultimately, and their people's relationship, we have indicators of this, the people's relationship to the astrology of looking at the stars, looking at the planets, and then all of this other, it was happening in the midst of. It's not like we were just like these were completely isolated things, right? So that right there was a problem. But another issue is that he's talking about cause and effect. Can this affect this? And even that basic premise I have difficulty with because of my experience with studying Kabbalah. Because with Kabbalah, you're relating to literally like a wave that's one movement. It's not necessarily that this thing is affecting this other thing. Like, even we can do that for brevity sometimes, just for the sake of communication, and I don't mind. But like ultimately, when I'm relating to astrology, I'm like, these dynamics that exist in the stars and the planets, these are the same dynamics governing our lives. They're happening at once. So it's not like, oh, the gravity or whatever, something measurable that's happening over here, this is going to go all the way over here, affect us. No, microcosm, macrocosm, these aren't separate. They're distinct, but they're not separate. And so, and then as we move through time, developmentally, we're all developing together, right? So I guess, I don't know, I just wanted to communicate that because I feel like the language that I hear around astrology, like, it can work for the means of communicating the ideas, but at the same time, my own personal insights around it have very little, if anything, to do with that. So I don't know. I like that. I could take that Carl Sagan chapter in that book and just like break down all my issues with it, and I could write a book on that chapter, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, it's the same arguments all the time. And what's funny is astrology and then astronomy. It's like almost all of our understanding of our solar system and the stars were all astrologers. Like Copernicus was an astrologer. Like all these people that are scientific heroes now, they like whitewash the fact that the only reason they really cared about the stars is because they felt there was a meaning to it, that they could find a correlation with their life with what they were seeing. But yeah.
Also,
you know that thing, the Raspberry Pi?
Isn't Sagan like the title the Talmud used to refer to the priest who's like the deputy high priest of Israel too? So there's something kind of weird about that too. But yeah,
you guys know that thing called the Raspberry Pi?
I got like 4 or 5 over there. Yeah.
How
much do they cost? How much they cost?
Like $20, depending.
Yeah.
And how much value can you get out of a Raspberry Pi?
I mean, you can run an LLM on one.
Oh man, if it's wild raspberries that I collect every summer,
how much value can you get out of a like person? You know.
All right, so like astrology is a Raspberry Pi.
It's one of my favorite things in the world you're talking about. So it tracks. It tracks.
You can condense it into a book.
I mean, yeah, but it's infinite. Like astrology.
Yeah, but you got to spend 10,000 hours with it to get the thing that's in the book out of the book. Like a Raspberry Pi, you give it to a 7-year-old. You give the 7-year-old 10,000 hours with Raspberry Pi. Who knows what the fucking kid's gonna do?
How many books you could get out of that? Yeah, you can play Minecraft. You can play Minecraft with a Raspberry Pi.
Dude, Will Morgan says that Raspberry Pi could get you to the moon.
Can get you to the moon.
Theoretically, it's the same, more power than anything that they had to get to the moon. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could at least become Smashing Pumpkins. But I'm just saying, there's power out there in bite-sized sources, and I think astrology in this day and age isn't as intimidating as it once was, because you can get good information and you can get good stacks readily. Yeah. PDFs abound.
In order to be an astrologer in the past, you had to be a mathematician. Like you had to literally be able to calculate the positions and draw the charts.
You needed a compass.
Now it's available to everybody. So there's a certain amount of granular detail lost with people who don't actually study the sky versus someone who does. But then you also get all these people who are able to interact with it on their level, which is great. It's just a good thing.
Well, it's astrology and poker, and their theories are kind of the same, right? And if you understand poker in the modern era, the internet took over poker. And instead of playing your first 10,000 hands in a casino or with human beings, you played them in 1/20th of the time online, right?
So it becomes just statistical.
And so these solvers for poker look very much like charts of astrology.
Sure.
Right? These esoteric statistical configurations. You're supposed to memorize the situational timing of this solver and shit. And like, We're not robots when we play poker.
No, you got it. It's a really, really good analogy, because just like playing a computer with poker, you're just looking at the statistics. There's no human element of bluffing and being able to read your partner. Whereas when you're reading an astrological chart, and I mean, this sounds insane, I'm sure, to people who don't study astrology, but the deeper you go down, it's like the sky where you are on the planet is describing everything that's happening right now. It's describing absolutely everything. The little mouse that's eating a piece of cheese, that has its own chart. Someone asks you a question, that question has a chart. Someone's born, that person has a chart. And so how you read the chart is completely dependent upon what you're actually looking at.
Right, but isn't it the same kind of, like, if I've done like 1,000 tarot readings, I want to know as little about the person as possible for me to give a good reading. Absolutely. The more that I know about the person, the more I can sense that I'm going to interject these, I'm going to having these intrusive assumptions, and I give better readings when I know nothing about the person. So say I was doing a party or something, and I got person after person come up to me. I love it when I've never met this person. That's the best. And then saying,
I like that.
Like, I also don't do fortune telling, so like I don't relate to it as fortune telling, and I tell people that I'm like just looking at, like, if these cards were laid out in front of me, I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff. If something resonates, cool, but this is just what I see in the information, But I think, but there's something to be said for what you're speaking to, that it's not just like Noah, you've probably done natal charts on your own, like not using AstroDienst or whatever is out there, right? Have you?
I have an ephemeris, but I generally don't draw the charts.
It's challenging. I met people who do, and it's very involved. Somebody did my chart. They did all the math themselves. They used no internet for it once when I was younger. She was with the BOTA. This lady, she did 13 signs. She had the Ophiuchus in there. Yeah. And she was like, more people would do this, except it's hard when it's not an even number to even just lay out the natal chart, Right.
Well, there's a lot to that if you bring in Ophiuchus, because really there's 12 full lunations a year. And so the idea that we have 12 signs, they're tropical signs, they're not really connected to the constellations. I mean, everyone wrote all these books 2,000 years ago that really aligned the constellations specifically with the tropical
signs. Only because they're the signs that land on the ecliptic, no?
Yeah. Well, yes, but there's other signs that touch the ecliptic as well. And also every culture has their own conception of where these constellations are and what they mean. So
what's another sign besides Ophiuchus that actually lands on the ecliptic?
It depends. Okay, so if you're looking at 27 degrees, 23 minutes. See, the thing about Ophiuchus is that it's really on the ecliptic. Like it's really there. Like it crosses north and south.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying it's like when you have to fill in those boxes and you're like, how many motorcycles are here? And you're like, oh, here's the edge of a tire. Do I have to do this one?
It is. But I mean, it's also like you have to understand that astrology evolves. Like it's a personal relate. Like I believe stars and the planets, they have spirits and they have intelligences, and we're communicating with them. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they're communicating with us. So every star is its own individual thing. And you have traditions that have been communicating with these stars and have their own relationship to them. Okay. But just like you're one person at home and then you go to work and you're another person, it's like based on where you are on the planet and what your culture is, you're relating to that individual star in a different way because you have a different mythology and you're tying that star to other stars. So every star has to interact with the Earth based on how humans perceive it. So, like, do you think Sagittarius in the northern hemisphere, when the sun is there, when it's at the darkest point, is the same as Sagittarius in the southern hemisphere, where the sun is as high as the sky as it gets? Or these two different energies? To me, the stars are slowly changing as they're moving through the tropical zodiac. And there are traditions where the zodiac itself is a band outside the stars. It's a sphere beyond the stars. Mm-hmm. And the stars are an inner because they move, and the zodiac, from the human perspective, never moves.
You're just a hair away from getting into flat Earth stuff.
Some of
our viewers are getting really excited. They're like, "See the firmament!
It's almost
you just said it."
Oh shoot!
Yeah. I've watched the sunrise. I'm pretty sure the Earth isn't flat.
I mean, either way, though, I feel like a lot of the time I see a lot of astrologers that use a flat Earth map, and it seems to work just as well. So it doesn't really change too much from that.
It's a 2D conception, right? It's a 2D conception of a 3-dimensional reality, and so so you can take a slice, these like orange slices, which is every degree of longitude. And it's not just what's on the ecliptic. I mean, the stars that are off the ecliptic have power. Like some of the brightest stars are pretty far off the ecliptic, but they still have a presence in a chart, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like the constellations that we know on the ecliptic are almost like placeholders for meaning. Like if you go back in time, around the time probably that the pyramids were being built, Leo would have been on the spring equinox. So instead of Aries the ram having that fiery beginning of spring energy,
Right.
was the lion.
Isn't that the or Hancock? John Hancock is that his name?
Graham Hancock.
Graham Hancock. Sorry, I was okay. No, that wasn't that his argument that Graham said that the Sphinx was directed towards Leo, but in the future, like that they foresaw where it would be in the future, and that's why they directed that way. It's kind
they knew because they were building all these temples all the time that would align specifically with a single star that they do their rituals communing with, and then they'd have to rebuild the temple in 1,000 years or 100 years.
So that they were able to infer into the future where they wanted the Sphinx to be directed, not for the time itself. That's crazy.
Well, look at all the Mithraic religion and everything. Yes, the slaying of Taurus is the end of the age of Taurus. Like they knew that the stars were moving around them.
Mm-hmm.
So you wanted to do a little bit of Back to the Future astrology still.
Well, this stuff's more interesting, but I'll just real quickly. So it's Saturn coded, and basically, if you go to the chart for when he travels back in time.
Which I
think is the one you had. Yeah, right here. So what's really interesting? Oh, no, not that one. Go back. You had it. Go back. Where are we? I don't know. I don't. Oh yeah, right here. Go back. Ah, Scorpio's on the IC. Go back. No.
This not this one. This one. Okay.
So
I got a question whenever we get a gap. So
I'll just go quick. I have a ton of information. I'm going to put a blog post up on my blog, and I'll link back to this episode with like all the nerdy details. But basically, you've got so you've got Saturn. Oh, go back for a second.
I had to just do this for a second.
Basically, you've got the Lord of Time, Kronos, right, is down in at the bottom in Scorpio, okay? And you've got a stellium in Scorpio. You get the sun with Pluto, and they use plutonium to power the thing. And you've got Mercury there too. And Mercury is like how we deal with time in the moment. It's how we manipulate time as we're going through it. And Saturn is how we structure time in the long range. Okay, so it's on the IC, and the IC is like your innermost part. It's like if you face north and you look below the Earth, that's where the ecliptic is, okay? The IC is like the lowest point. It's opposite the midheaven. So now it's in Scorpio, and the IC is also your past and your ancestry, okay? So the IC is in Scorpio. Saturn and Mercury and the Sun and Pluto and also K2 are all there, okay? And it's in Scorpio, and the movie begins with his mother denying sexuality. She's hiding her own sexuality, right? So this is a very scorpionic theme, you know. And then so he goes through time. So look at the chart when he winds up back in the past. Okay, Scorpio's now rising. Okay, so it's moved. And they specifically chose a Saturday to a Saturday. So the sun's about to rise, the sun's about to hit, and we have this all exactly timed in the chart, right? And Saturn is in Scorpio again because it's 30 years. So it's a Saturn cycle. Venus is there, but they're showing so now his mother's sexual history and I've parked with boys. In the beginning is her, I would never park with boys. I didn't do that. And I didn't call on boys. And she like chases him down. It's his mother coming out into the open, rising, right? And if you go to, I sent you a couple charts. Okay, this one here. Okay, so this is interesting. So also within the movie, it seems like Marty, who is very Gemini in the movie, by the way, and he's also Michael J. Fox is a Gemini sun. And he's extremely Gemini in his relationships and what he's doing. Except he seems to be Mars coded in the movie, Marty Mars. And a lot of the things that happen, like when he wanders into town for the first time, it's Mars hour. And he winds up punching Biff and giving his father, Mars is your courage, right? So he winds up giving his father his Martian courage. So if we go back to that chart, this chart is, I believe, when he travels back in time. I think it's the lightning strike. No, that's not the lightning strike. What's the name of that chart?
Was it saying
the clock tower?
Okay, here we're good. This is the clock tower, right? Is that where we're at? The clock tower? Not that one. Yeah, that's good.
This is the clock tower, you think?
So
this was your first chart. This is your second chart. So this is the third, and this is the fourth.
Go back. You I think you had it. No. Where are we at? No, one more. Right there. Okay. So no, this is when he comes back in time. Sorry.
These aren't labeled, so I'm gonna go. I think
I'm sorry. Anyways,
no,
so
okay.
This is it right here. Okay. So he doesn't have power. He's not able to. Is that correct? Yeah, I think that's it. Where's Neptune is in Libra. Pluto. Oh yeah, this is it. Okay, so this is the moment that he gets the lightning strike and he travels back in time. Now Uranus is can be technology. It can also relate to electricity in general. Okay, it's rising. It's right on the rising sign. Now it's also opposite Chiron. Okay, and Chiron is this deep family wound. Chiron is like the wound that never heals. Okay, now you've got all this stuff. Now the moon is moving to have a new moon in Scorpio. All this other stuff. Jupiter and Pluto are together. Okay, and he needs plutonium. And then where's the other alignment that I was looking at?
Will Morgan's pointing out that so you have plutonium says this spaceman is from Pluto.
That's right.
His special power of not being seen in number 2 is a trait of Pluto's helmet because he's all in the DL when he's got that leather jacket and that hat and he's just like
100%. I have that in my notes, but I don't have my notes up right now. But yeah, exactly. Okay, so then go forward. So he goes forward in time. Now note that you've got that Uranus. Okay, keep going. It's not that chart. It's this chart right here. Stop. Go back. Okay, this is where he winds up waking up the next day. Oh, give me the chart. This is where he winds up waking up the next day, okay? So first off, I said Marty is kind of Mars-coded. You've got Mars right culminating on the midheaven, okay? Now, what's interesting is Mars, when he goes back in time, is in Virgo, where it has triplicity dignity. It has some dignity there. But it's about to move into Libra. And when he goes back in time, Mars is in detriment and actually in exile is what they call it. When he goes back in time, you'll note that Mars in those other charts, don't go back because it's too confusing.
But Mars is directly on the cusp of Libra and Scorpio here?
No, Mars
Virgo. Virgo and
Virgo and Libra,
Taurus.
yes. So
Libra and Virgo. I can't.
That's right. So when he goes back in time, and he's living life in the present, right? Like his family has problems, but he's got his girlfriend. He's going out on the week. He's got all this great stuff going on. But so you've got Mars on the midheaven. This is when he comes back, though. But when he goes back in time, Mars is in Libra. Okay, so we're going back 30 years, and it just so happens Mars aligns that it has moved from Virgo into Libra, where it's in detriment. In fact, in exile. So Marty is in exile in a time that he's not meant to be in. Now, when he comes back, again, we have, although different signs, we have a Uranus-Chiron opposition on the ascendant-descendant axis.
Right, but there's a I'm sorry, but you're looking at the Mars on the cusp in this particular thing is interesting because you're looking at Virgo. Virgo's the version like she gets pregnant with him, right? So like he's going back through the like, oh my god, that's trippy. So like the balance and the mother and that it's on the cusp, like he's on the cusp of the...
She doesn't get pregnant with him, but she does have sex for the first time, essentially.
Oh, like is that what happens? Well, still
because he's not born for like 10 years or something like that.
Right, but she's a virgin.
Yeah.
When he goes back. And
well, we don't know that. Do we know that?
Well, I mean, it seems like that's what happens is that
she's parked with boys before.
Yeah, but
she's parked with him. She's made out with him. At,
but she's about to be assaulted by Biff, right? So that was going to be her non-consensual divergening.
Dude, is there another like the way that Biff shouts at her? I just want to say in Back to the Future 2, when he's just like he's doing like a Wayne's World. You will be mine. Oh yes, like he's like I'm gonna marry you. Like I'm gonna like, but it's like this menacing threat to her. And then he actually does it through force. Like that's so bizarre.
I'm going to run for president.
Yeah, crazy.
But at any rate, this is when he comes back, and he's now in a new timeline. He's on the midheaven, so Mars is powerful, and you've got Uranus on the ascendant. So this new technology allowed him to heal the wounds of his family because he comes back now. Chiron's on the descendant, going back into the underworld, now his family is healed. And he's done it through this time travel, which is this amazing Uranus-Chiron opposition. Yeah, there's more, but I'd have to dig up my notes. It's too confusing to do. But anyways, Yeah.
My question was related
the
to
one
Huey
other thing.
Lewis.
The one other thing, in terms of the Saturn coding, I almost forgot.
Fine, okay.
Twin Pines.
He's off of me.
When are you going to get it through your thick skull, Lorraine? You're my girl.
Oh, dear.
Shannon, I wouldn't be your girl even if you had $1 million.
Well, that didn't age well.
Yes, you will.
Oh, this is it.
It's you and me, Lorraine. Watch it, Bess. It's meant to be. I'm gonna marry you someday, Lorraine. Someday you'll be my wife.
My God, bro. My God. Some of them are into that. What can I tell you?
That should work.
Yeah, it seriously.
Work for a bit.
I've heard sometimes that that's a thing.
So
You just grab them by the pussy.
Death. It's taking over this whole country. It's horrible. The Twin Pines, the pine tree is, according to Agrippa, is given to the nature of Saturn. So then you've got another Saturn coding within all of it.
Ooh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
like
I actually dug up my three books of occult philosophy to make sure that I was right, because I was like, I'm pretty sure pine. Yeah.
Well, there
Henri
definitely
Cornelius says.
I keep finding the Kennedy thing fascinating, because if you look at Dealey Plaza and the triangle, and you compare that to the very synthetic map of the town hall, you see the triangle, and the triangle is the same design exactly.
Well, it's also Shin. You're looking at the Hebrew letter Shin at Dealey Plaza, right?
Right.
With the streets, the way that they split like that. So that would be judgment. That's yeah.
So there's something I find that really interesting too, in terms of Saturn, right? And like the dethroning of the king. There's something there too. But
there's a few other things, like the enchantment under the sea dance is all Neptune coded. They've got Neptune.
Right, that's solid right there.
And
that's got the only reason. Why would you even like a Neptune dance? It's ridiculous.
Right. Okay. And when the dance is happening, because this is all timed in the movie, you can watch the charts unfold. Neptune is in the 4th house of family. And the kiss at that dance is the legend, the mythology, which is all Neptunian, of their whole family being alive. And he has to recreate this Neptunian fantasy that his mother has of being kissed by George at the dance. And Neptune is in the 4th house.
Oh, right. Also, the Pinheads are playing, which recalls Hellraiser, which is a 9/11 resonant thing. The first Hellraiser was released on 9/11. The third was as well. And the third one actually has the 2 towers in the cover for it. But beyond that, the underworld, right? So it's like in terms of Hellraiser, is that's this band, right? It's crazy.
Wow. Oh, another thing. I'm looking at my notes, because some of this is amazing.
Yeah.
When he goes back to the future, okay, the thunder strike. Okay, so Jupiter is the Lord, Zeus, the Lord of Lightning, right? The Lord of Lightning is exactly conjunct Pluto on the day that he goes back. Like they're right together. Okay, and he needs plutonium. He doesn't have plutonium, so instead he uses the lightning, and you've got Uranus on the. Yeah.
So what's the symbolism then of in Back to the Future 2? He no longer needs the plutonium, and he uses garbage.
Yeah. Okay. So
Crash stratum.
Yeah. There you go. Nice.
Also, because it's a new timeline, and there's far more nuclear waste.
He doesn't need those college-educated skull and bones occult lodges.
Well, what does Bifco do?
He can just watch, Fritz the Cat. And he can see the secrets of the universe.
Bifco nuclear. Remember, he has some kind of nuclear enterprise company, Bifco, where they San Andreas nuclear power plant, the Bifco San Andreas nuclear power plant. And
this would be a good shirt for you.
I do need this shirt. I'm going to save this for some time.
Dude, that's the Close Encounters dudes, right?
Yeah, it does look like hell, like Devil's Tower.
But it's just in the newspaper somewhere. Hill Valley pollution alert. I think there's definitely something about how he's making money from recycling nuclear toxic waste. And I think the deal is the toxic waste is going into the food supply and everything else, right?
So he's right. God damn it.
You just get a glimpse of that paper there, but it's at an angle even, so you're able to find an actual scan of what that paper is from back. That's Back to the Future too. They've just for a second at an angle. Yeah,
they have some good ones. I have to look from, but like one of them is it's Nixon's 5th term, and they're trying to end the Vietnam War by 1985 or something like that, or 87. And then you know, yeah, all these other little things. The thumb bandits, because people are stealing people's thumbs for scanning fingerprint wallet, you know, to get into accounts and things. So thumb bandits are cutting off people's thumbs, right? Which is also related to the Yakuza, where you have to take the
I was just thinking, yeah, totally.
So there's a lot of things in that. Surf Vietnam, obviously, Apocalypse Now, and you're surfing Vietnam, like people are paying to go tourist the surfing spots. Yeah, there's the newspapers are pretty great. The other one is that in 2015 we had the drones everywhere. It was like the Kickstarter of DJI Phantom drones, and there's some of the first drone newspaper journaling is done in the Back to the Future scene. Like the drone comes and records everything, which is very much like the world that's emerged since then. But it's also kind of the point that we never got to that timeline because things are changed back, because no flying cars in our 2015, right?
Will says 1941 Steven Spielberg comedy written by dudes from Back to the Future. The movie 1941. Just I don't know. There's something to that. I've tripped out on that sync-wise before. Also, that Spielberg and Zemeckis had something to do with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or Zemeckis was going to and then dropped out, and then Steven Spielberg stayed at it. I think is what actually happened. But the amount of correspondences between that is uncanny, because even like the Toontown thing, as it relates to like the period in which it's taking place, like with World War I, there's like almost some kind of like nuclear indication or something. It's weird, but yeah, like this is a comedy, but like it's a total sync resonator in all kinds of ways. Resonator, yeah.
Interesting. It's got some numbers to go on.
Yeah, John Belushi's great in it.
Well, okay, so Noah, is there anything else you wanted to pull up about Back to the Future right now? I mean, we're past the hour, but if you wanted to cover anything else, and also you're welcome to come back again.
That was a question. I had a question.
Yeah, that's true. You did.
Huey Lewis.
Yeah.
All right. So he provides the music, right? The rock and roll for Back to the Future. It's a story about like they wanted someone else, and then they got Huey to fill in, and they wrote that lick for "Power of Love." You know,
he's great. And Hippie Square.
You know, the plutonium that's used for the time machine in the car is kind of related to the electricity of the lightning and the clock tower, and the electricity of the guitar that Marty or the Martian Energy plays, right?
That's right.
Just to plug it in, turn it up.
So Huey Lewis, what was the name of his band?
Huey Lewis and the News, yeah.
So is he the gospel?
He's the Mercurial Messenger.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And also, let's not forget that in Back to the Future 1, when he plugs in that amp, as he's moving his hand along, you can see the code from the plane in Doctor Strangelove.
Oh, yeah.
114.
Because it's explosive, right? No, it's CRM 114. Yeah.
But is there any astrological depth to Huey Lewis in Back to the Future?
I don't know. I didn't look into that.
It's the really, second picture at the top, actually.
It's super sweet going back in time and watching these 80s movies where a song is like top billing. Like they show you Huey Lewis is gonna do a song in this movie. It's kind of nice.
Well, I remember Michael Jordan in the elevator on SNL, you know, gonna go back in time. And it's one of my favorite little bits. But I don't know how that relates. It's the end of the show, so.
Legit. Well, yeah, buy a Synctank t-shirt. Everybody go to paranoidamerican.com and buy the Serious Dog t-shirt, because that's lit. You want to show off your sale on sticker books? These are pretty good.
Oh yeah, I've only got like 4 or 5 of those left, but that's basically a huge book of 100 pages of releasable sticker paper. So all those stickers that you've been collecting, they're in a box somewhere, or you're ordering a whole bunch from me. This is like a nice little spot where you can keep all of them kind of organized and then peel them off and put them anywhere else that you want to go. But anyone that's been getting one of these sticker books, the next like 5 that I got left, I'm just loading you up with sticker packs and sticker sheets and all kinds of stuff.
And make sure you guys,
I don't have it in front of me, But I've got Synctank cards are now in. We have got a official Synctank trading card, but I haven't gotten into like making all the packs yet.
Man, talk about Back to the Future. Those sticker books were amazing. I love that so much. Once when I was a kid, I was going to a girl's birthday party and my mom bought a Rainbow Bright sticker set that with like, you know, you'd fold it out and you could move it and do little like your own comic books with it. I was like, this is too cool, Mom. I need it. She like
actually I've got a They Live Rainbow Bright sticker that I'm waiting to arrive. I also got all like strawberry shortcake. I've got Penny, Inspector Gadget. I've got like 20 of them coming. I'll have to show them off when they get here.
Do you have the Beau is Afraid sticker book? That one's fucking amazing.
When Andreas came to Burning Man and he set up his visuals, I shared this before, but it's too good. And I was sitting there, and I was coming up on mushrooms, and he had his like screen set up, and he had this image of Rainbow Bright on her horse star, whatever.
Right.
Like, and she's running along at it on a loop. But you could like, and she keeps looking back over her shoulder while she's running along the rainbow with his horse, and behind her was the Pentagon that was like kept on coming forward at her, shifting from the Pentagon to like a satanic goat head, back and forth, and it was like for the rest of my trip that night, like I kept on flashing back to it, and I was like, oh, so insane. Like, what? Who is this guy? So that was like one of my early introductions to how cool Andreas was like these insane visuals of Rainbow Bright with the Pentagon. The goat head. Anyway, sorry.
I remember specifically getting also the Sphinxes from Neverending Story, so that they could, so you could ride between the Sphinxes. But yes, the Bigfoot comic. Make sure you guys check out Do Bigfoot Exist. Sign up for the Kickstarters on ParanoidAmerican.com. Go to MK Ultrasound. Wait, no, that's not right. MK Ultrasound 723 on X is the Twitter account. From here, you can watch all of the sync films that David's put together. Here's Schindler's List with Leonard Cohen's album The Future on the highlights page, or even more sync films. They're all like full length and in high definition, and you can watch them. It's great. Civil War paired with Marilyn Manson's album One Assassination Under God. That sounds interesting. I don't think I've seen that one yet. So check those out. Also from here, you can click on the syncbook.com to go to the network page, which is where you can watch Synctank videos, including the Hindsight is 2020 we talked about earlier from Alan Green. And then the sync films are all here as well. So you can see all the Lana Del Rey stuff, and in chronological order, all the way back to Sorry Cassandra and Light Your Candle Before Dawn. So pretty sweet. Check this out.
Which, by the way, I watched Back to the Future recently because of Sorry Cassandra. When I saw that, I'm like, I gotta rewatch that movie. It started a whole chain of events for me.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, there's the whole thing with Back to the Future in here. I align early in this 7.5 hour long film collage. I aligned all three Back to the Future movies at when they hit the lightning at the same time. So the lightning strike happens in all three. So I had the lightning strike at the exact same time and just saw how it would unfold around it, and some crazy stuff ended up happening.
Hey, Uranus rising, man. Uranus rising.
Yeah. One major thing that if you watch it, you'll be like, wait, no, what the hell? But yeah, I don't want to spoil it if you ever watch that. Yeah.
And everybody also make sure you check out Noah's work. You can find Noah Campbell, Foul Pulp, right here.
This is an old account, but I got my blog spot, my YouTube channel. Got some stuff there.
You can pull up to the subscribe. And like, we hope to have you back soon because this has been fun. Facebook here, Foul for some clothing. Well, that's cool. I haven't seen these yet. Stop stressing and start doing. Okay. I'm into that. Yeah, and this is the Facing North group. Almost Kubrickian numbers of people joined. So yeah, check out Noel. And yeah, guys, thank you for being here. Let's do this again next week, basically. Yeah. Okay.
Sweet.
Wait. Where'd it go?
Saturn has entered the building.
Oh yeah. Well, since you say it like that, I felt like I wanted to show you that earlier. I forgot.
We're not even.
Yo,
no
we're on the dark side.
This syncs the Wizard of Oz, this song.
Everything.
Go to ayahuasca.com.
Oh yeah,
ayahuasca.com.
Check that shit out, boy.
Ayahuasca.com. Did I try that? It doesn't even load.
It should load.
Oh
no. Am I spelling it
wrong? It must have been a good reason.
Must be Saturn into Pisces.
Saturn into Pisces.
Oh, nice.